Hey, welcome back to the Crazy Shenanigans Network. We're here at DEFCON Level 4. Hey, what's DEFCON 4? This is a comparison, a little meta-analysis video I'm going to be putting together here, or part of a greater series of defenders versus controllers, buff sets, support sets, debuff sets, trying to figure out which is better, which is the winner, who's the guy, gal that you want on your team, defender, controller, we don't know. At DEFCON 4, we're taking a look at Nature Affinity, and we've got Screamin' Tree, who I've already run through the meta-analysis of his team missions. Some interesting findings there, some stats that I put together as well. And today we're taking a look at Fey Wode, the controller side, a dark control Nature Affinity. I ran a double feature set of videos for her with the team. Ran a set of 3 missions on the first night. Had to abort that a little bit early as some folks dropped it and couldn't get the team to refill quick enough. And then I finished it the subsequent night with another 3 missions with some brand new teammates and collected all that data. And I've crunched all those numbers, put that all together, and that's what this video is going to get into. We're going to go over those 2 sets of team missions. We're gonna look at them. We're gonna analyze them. We're gonna maybe laugh at some stuff. We're gonna point out some things. We're gonna try to educate ourselves about what all went right, wrong, and was ugly. And then we're gonna take a look at the numbers. We're gonna take a look at some stats, crunch some stuff together, figure out what worked, what didn't work, and ultimately try and answer the question, at least for Nature Affinity, at least for these 2 builds, these Defender and Controller builds, which one was superior? And that's going to be our culminating video, which we'll get into later this week. But let's start with Fey Wode here and this video. Let me pull up our mission video here. See, close that. And all right, and here we go. Throw on the headset, grab the telestrator pen. Looks like we're good to go. Let me double check, make sure I'm able to write stuff okay. Okay, all right, we're good, good. All right, so let's start off with the basics here, the team introduction. So this is part 1, and part 1, we got through 3 missions before I had to call it. And the first 2 were great. Missions 1 and 2, I had 4 teammates. And the other cool thing about these 4 teammates is I don't think nobody else besides me was incarnate. Everybody else was either less than level 50 or just level 50. So we had Fey Wode, that's me, the controller, and then we had Toolman, a tank. We had Ayura, another tank, so we have a double tank situation here, which is, I think, the first time I've had that. I've had plenty of melee people that have 2 tanks. That may or may not, I don't want to say skew any data, but it's just something to consider that, obviously tanks are designed to take hits, to take aggro, have lots of hit points, so that may affect some of the numbers. I also have a Dominator. It's the second time I've had a Dominator. I had one in my very first set of missions. I think it was with Emperor Avenger, if I'm not mistaken. So I have a Dami, not level 50, and I don't know if they were perma or not. I wasn't paying attention. They were throwing out domination a bit, so I don't know if they were perma, though. And then Nate Knockdown. This is one of our best of worst friends here. I think that's Lawson's character. Don't quote me on that one, Lawson, if that was you. Give a shout out in the comments. But anyway, it was a few days ago. I don't remember exactly who it was off the top of my head, so I apologize for that. But I think the only person that was 50 was maybe Nate Knockdown. But I'll pop over everybody. And so overall, I mean, the team was, I guess weaker than my other teams at this point, because all the other teams I had at least 2 incarnates, if not 3. So this is sort of the weakest one, and most of them are strangers. I didn't know 3 out of the 5 people. It's kind of a perfect setup to really test. At least what I'm trying to find out here is, hey, which support set, which not necessarily the set, but which archetype is doing the better job at keeping a team kicking. And the combination I put together here for Fey Wode, I think, is really strong in the protection department. We have obviously controls, which is going to give you a lot of mitigation. And then you've got your support set, which is nature in this case, which has actually a ton of buffing, lots of green numbers. And the other thing about the controls, because I'm using dark control on here, and I talked about this a bit with Fey Wode's build, is not only you get the basic mitigation from your controls, but dark is going to add a lot of minus to hit. And that's another form of mitigation, right? If they can't hit you, they can't damage you. So these two things together, I'm expecting some synergy here. I think there's two ends in synergy. This is, I think, what the classical, people that would vote for controller over defender as far as supporting a team is talking about. I think they're talking about synergy, and I think, in my opinion, and again, I don't know this for a fact. We'll see if by the time I'm done with the series, I can say yay or nay for sure. But I think when you're taking controls plus debuffs, that's when you have the true synergy. However, notice that the synergy in this case is not from the support set. The support set is just pure buffing. So buffing and debuffing, they might be like peanut butter and jelly and they go great together, but it depends on which combo. Because when I was using electrical affinity in the first set here with the DEFCON 1, I didn't find the synergy jumping out at me between that buffing support set and the synergy of my controller there. Could have just been that combo. But, I found that that support set was very clicky, very reactive, where nature, I think, is superior in the sense that it's much more passive and sort of fire and forget type of support. You click your auras, your buffs, and then you go about your business for, a couple minutes. Okay, with electric, it was much more got to keep going, keep firing away. So anyway, I think you're going to see synergy, but I think it's going to be within the control set. But of course, if I'm not getting hit as much, I'm not taking as much damage. That's going to make this support set seem better because I don't have to rely upon it as much. So that's kind of my initial instinct here is I'm going to go through these videos. Again, I haven't seen these videos in their entirety. I saw a couple minutes here and there as I uploaded them, but I didn't watch the whole thing at all. I've watched maybe 10% of it. I have crunched the numbers on it, so I do know the results of that, and it's going to be quite interesting. I think you'll find out, and I'll show some of those as we go through this. But other than that, we'll see what's going to happen at the same time as you're going to see what's going to happen. So let's do this. Let's fire it up. Here, I'm picking our mission. We're going to go a kidnap Carter first, you guys. Let's do it. So we got Fey Wode. Toolman's a level 50 tank. Ayura is another tank. Let's see. We can grab these guys inside. I'm trying to get their levels, but I wasn't because people are moving into the mission already. So Toolman was our only true 50. Nate's 45. Toolman's not incarnated though. Yep, we're logged. And I gotta make my log chat. Try to get a hold of these guys in a second. All right, so here's a great place. I like these type of open encounter, like sewer type of things. So here we go. Now, one thing I almost get caught a little bit flat-footed with this one because I'm sitting here trying to do log chat and trying to look at people's levels. I'm like, all right, well, Toolman, he's 50, and Nate, that's 45, and let me get the other ones. And as I'm doing this and doing log chat, everybody else is kind of taking off and going to the mission already, which, sort of a typical pug kind of thing, right? But we come around that corner and come in here, you got the little zigzag entrance. And luckily, nobody had engaged yet. So we've got this narrow choke point right here. So I love these little choke points, depending on what I'm playing. But in this case, I like it because, anything I can kind of throw like a patch or I can throw debuffs and keep things concentrated. I can kind of get some controls going in here. Now, the one thing I don't necessarily think you want to do, and I'm not sure if I don't think I made this mistake, but for instance, let's say I were to throw a cone immobilize or something like that in here. And the problem with that is, that's going to secure some of these guys right here, but it also will probably affect some guys over here, or will miss them completely because, I'm cut off by line of sight. But if I immobilize guys around the edge here, then they're not going to be able to, get into view where we can actually hit them. Or if I didn't hit them at all and they just come around and attack, they're going to be smacking you right in the face. So you kind of got to be smart about what you're going to pick, throw in here. And I think things might move a little bit too quickly, but what I would like to do is just throw my buff patch in here first, and then follow that up with, let's say, a shadow field and drop the big old bubble hold patch in there, and then let people go in. Now, if we had a lot of more blastery types, this would be great because they can just kind of like rain death in here, and I can keep everything pinned and immobilized right here. But we only got Nate, and Nate I think is energy, so he doesn't have a bunch of like rain powers and just dropping AoEs down there. He's got some gones and some single turret stuff. And then, these two guys, they want to charge in. They're tanks. And our Dami, they want to get line of sight like I do. And I believe Senju is mind control. So they're going to rely upon maybe some cones or some AoEs, but they need to see what the hell they're trying to hit too. So I don't want to be too control-y right here. I want to be selective with what I'm going to throw out there. So let's see what I ended up doing here. And it might have gotten so fast that I just dive in there. So I haven't put any buffs down, so I'm trying to get that going. There goes Barrier, Wild Growth, Wild Bastion. Going up against some Carnies here first. Circle, that is. Yeah, so one thing I didn't like there, and again, this is kind of puggy activity, and you got this narrow little corridor, and I've got buffs that bloom around me. All right, I've got 3 of them down here. I've got 2 clicked. I wanted to do the third one. One's resistance. One of them I think's got the to hit and damage. The other one was absorb, I think regen. So anyway, I got these 3 buffs. I only got these 2 guys clicked. I also managed to click barrier here, which is defense, resistance stuff. But I don't know who all I'm hitting because people are already going in here. So this is like one of these scenarios that we came around the corner, saw this, and I'm going, okay, what do I want to do? Well, first, let me not even worry about controls just yet. Let me go ahead and get the buffs. But before I can get the buffs on everybody, right, we've got at least 3 people, I think, went into the hallway already. So I don't even know who I got with those buffs. Just looking real quick at our 2 tanks, they don't have the absorb on them, so I definitely missed them. So I got 1, 2, 3 with probably my first 2 buffs. I don't know if anybody got the barrier or not beyond the people right next to me. So it's kind of one of these things, again, as a buffer, you run into this all the time, especially on a pug. People aren't waiting. They're just diving in. And you just got to hope, hopefully they got the tools to keep themselves alive because I can't do anything once you've moved away from me or broken my line of sight on you. All right, so I'm going in. All right, now I get the other buff off. So I kind of tipped my hand. I had to get in there. Okay, I didn't even get a chance to use Shadow Field. I just went in and started dropping more. I used Heart of Darkness. Me in a god mode here. Yeah, so I kind of want to recheck this. So I go in after them. Third buff, Heart of Darkness is what I open with. So at this point, I've gone into just PB AoE mode. Get in there, throw out the last buff, throw out the big PB AoE stun with Heart of Darkness, and I have the knock up with that. I think Avalanche I have slotted in there. And then you hear me comment about the Dominator, because I know one of the concerns that I have, and I think somebody else voiced this maybe on the forums or whatever, or in one of the YouTube comments, was that is having a Dominator on your team fair or not? Because I've said, hey, I don't want any other buff people, right? I don't want MMs, I don't want corruptors, I don't want defenders, and I don't want controllers, because they all have a buff set, and I'm just trying to see what my buff set does, because that's my primary question is, hey, looking at just the buff sets comparison side by sides, which AT is better? So if I throw in other buffers in there, how do I know if their shields or their debuffs or whatever they're throwing out there is impacting my ability to maintain a team? So I've blocked them. But then the question is, what about dominators? Because they definitely have controls. This is for sure. And I know somebody had said, hey, they're not fair because they're going to augment what my controller can do, right? Because controllers get containment damage boosting for attacking controlled targets, which is true. And dominators will definitely throw out control. However, my counter to that is, well, a couple things is yes, well, that may be true. I have enough of my own control that I'm not worried about it, right? Like as soon as I throw out shadowy binds, my cone immobilize, I've got containment. So I'm throwing that out as my 1, 2, 3 attacks every single time anyway. So I'm going to have containment. I don't need a dominator to give me more containment. It's not really going to help me if there's even more immobilize or holds out there. Yeah, it can help a little bit if they control something that I wasn't targeting. I would say their biggest impact is on the mitigation side. They're holding things or fearing or whatevering that is now going to decrease the incoming damage. That I think is their biggest impact. But how is that any different than a tank taunting and pulling aggro away from you, right? Or somebody, let's say a blaster drops a knockdown and throws things flying. I think you're going to get mitigation one way or another from other archetypes. Just some have more than others, and some are built around it, some aren't. But I've had plenty of, whatever brutes or tanks or whatever that has mitigation. They bring it with their armor sets, they bring it with their epic stuff, they have it with secondary effects of their attacks. Same thing with blasters. I built blasters around the concept of them being like a controller. Blap trollers or a Blominator. I have a Blominator build, so I have blasters are bringing controls as well. So I don't see this as necessarily a disqualifier for dominators, but definitely is they're gonna be mitigating kings, I would say, as long as they're, especially if they're permadom and something like mind control, right? Mind control, you got holds, you got sleeps, you got fears, you got confuses, lots of AoE, stackable even damage mitigation in the form of control. So that for sure is something. But again, how do you control for that? Because if you say, hey, no dominators, because that's going to help my controller, well, then my second counter to that is, well, if I'm going to say I can't have dominators because controls, well, then I shouldn't be allowing blasters on the team either with my defenders because they have blasts. And my defender has blasts, and I'm using my blasts as mitigation and as damage, so I can't allow blasters then too. And then I can't allow sentinels either because they have blasts. So by the time I'm done saying who I can and can't invite because of some potential overlap or unfairness or skewing the data, well, then I can't invite anybody at that point because everybody, I might as well just have a bunch of hollow shell NPCs following me around that don't do anything. And I'm just running escort missions, I guess. That would be another way to test this. But, you can't limit things so much that it doesn't even make any sense anymore. Like this would be so unrealistic. So it's already enough of a limitation for me to say, hey, no buffers, than to sit there and say, hey, nobody with any controls, nobody with anybody blasting. I mean, it's all unfair. Nobody has any debuffs in their blast. You can't use those either. Oh, you tank, shut off your shields. Like, I mean, come on. You can't do it. It doesn't make any sense. So, dominators are in. Whether or not they skew the data, we'll kind of wait and see what happens, right? All right, so boom, we're in here. First encounter, go. The other thing, notice I've got containment already just with entangling aura on a lot of these guys. Dami on the team, but it's okay. I don't think having extra controls is necessarily going to make me in a god mode here. Mainly testing the buff sets, see how they do. And a lot of times blasters bring controls anyway. Yeah, so we got a bunch of control, but I have a bunch of control, so I don't think it's the Dominator that set me up for containment. Nate knocked down one of our bestie worsty fellas. Info. Okay, here's an example of where the having that other control from the Dominator is definitely useful. So check this out. We just finished up this group, and we've got a big old sewer room opening up here, right? We've got this pocket of guys over here for sure. But you got this entrance, and most everybody knows there's probably another group right around the corner here, or maybe over here, or even split on both sides. So notice what happens though. I think both of our tanks head in this direction. But check out what our Dami does and then see what I do because I see this group here and I'm going, uh-oh, they're going to go in there and aggro this and start a fight. But then I'm like, well, there could be guys right over here and right over here, which is then going to pinch the squishier types in the back. So I'm going to try to intercept or at least be factoring that in. But the Dominator actually makes the job easier. So watch what Senjumaru does, who was playing excellently. All right, so here we go. We're clearing this group. So we got Nate knocked down, one of our best. All right, watch. Everybody's focused over there. Boom. He throws out sleep, it looks like. So throws out his AoE sleep while everybody else is looking. Now, maybe that's what then triggers the rest of the group to go in that direction. But again, there's guys to the left and to the right, I think. Yep, here they come. 50, 45 it is. Got some rare action guys here. All right, so now watch how we handle this. All right, so Dami initiates with the control on this group, which of course is immediately destroyed by somebody throwing some raining powers on them. But the tanks go in and attack. So we've got our 2 tanks go in to engage this group that has been slept and now is being damaged. And then Senjumaru is focusing this way as well. But right behind us, that other group of enemies is aggroed. So you'll see what I did. Compare it to how I try to intercept that. Let me back that up real quick. All right, so watch what's going to happen. And info, we're looking at level 50, 40. Okay, boom. I am dropping right over there at that group that's coming in from the back. I'm throwing Shadow Field over here. So I'm throwing my big AoE hold patch right there to try to mitigate this area. Meanwhile, our Dami has initiated, I think it was a sleep, but then it looks like as soon as they get it slept and the tanks grab aggro, Senjumaru is, I don't know if that's, probably is Sleet from the Epic set, Ice, I think. So it's dropping that over their Ice Storm. I don't know what they're using. Boom, and of course waking up whatever they had slept, but I don't think it mattered at that point. And then I also see them use TK, telekinesis, which is another hold. They were actually very good using their TK. I've seen some terrible TK uses in my time, and I personally never take it because this sort of has this blanket push effect to it as well as a hold. But they were very, very precise with it, so I got to give props to that. So at this point, I'm kind of like, all right, I feel for the most part, 2 tanks and the Dami kind of has that locked down. I can divert my attention more to these guys over here, but at the same time, I'm also seeing our tank here is taking damage. So that definitely has my eye. But I'm also taking damage from the guys to our left. So I'm trying to throw a controller there to at least mitigate the rear side. 5 it is. Got some rare action guys here. Okay, I'm going over there to throw in the Entangling Aura. Hoping Shadowfield's holding these guys down, which is doing a good job so far. I throw out... Looks like there's Succubus over there. So there's like 2 bosses over there. To the side. Try to contain this mess over here. I do notice this guy is not as damaging as my defender. For sure. Yeah, Fey Wode has lots of control and debuff. But she's not a super spiky damage. The whole team is very kind of low damage. You'll see how the fights take much longer than with Screaming Tree. But yeah, you can see what I did. So kind of back here's this is when this particular combo is sets, and I think Nature in particular with this, I've got a lot of tools that I can use. So if I back that up again, kind of see what I'm doing here. So we've got, you'll see how I'm sort of splitting my attention, right? We've got, back up one more here. Yep. Okay, I see what's going on. All right, so check this out. So here's what's up. We had the initial fight starts over here. Fight 1. Fight 2 is breaking out over here. Our Dami has controls going over here. Dami. But there is damage happening over here. So you'll see what I end up doing. I end up putting my life-giving spore patch over here to provide, heals. So the spore patch goes over here. So buff. So I see mitigations already being delivered by the Dominator. I'm going to throw some buff support over here just to keep these guys from, taking too much damage. I then just change my focus to fight number 2 over here. I've already put Shadow Field over here for mitigation control. And then you also see what I'm throwing over here is I'm putting the toggle debuff, the Spore Cloud, because there's a boss over here, a couple of them as a matter of fact. So I put the debuff toggle. Okay, so I've got mitigation controls, mitigation debuff. I've got support buff over here. I don't throw much over here as far as control because the Dominator's already got control, so there's no point in me throwing it too. All right, but I'm able to split, and this is just just something that you can do with certain sets. It's one of the reasons why I like Dominators or I like controllers or whatever that have multiple AOE controls or something like that. Or you can do this with Defenders, Corruptors, that kind of thing. If you have multiple patches, multiple toggle debuff things, you can drop them and sprinkle them in different areas as needed. So I'm patching buffing over here, I'm patching control, I'm toggling debuffing. So I'm able to split my attention into 2 directions. Now, you don't want to do this all the time because obviously it causes a problem at some point. This is where you get the idea of over aggro. If you got like some really newbie people, right, and they charge in and they aggro this and aggro that, and then maybe somebody fires something over here. Now you got a third group coming in. That's when you're really screwed. And especially as a supporter, you're like, dude, why do you keep bringing more stuff and not containing it at all? But we've got enough control that we can split ourselves, and we've got support that I'm able to split my support with this particular character. And plus, I've already pre-buffed people, so, we're feeling pretty good about that. And I've also, the other thing I did is I see Senjumaru is the squishiest one over here with the 2 tanks. I give that character the absorb shield from my sorcery pool. So I have my sorcery pool is put on her character. I think it's a female character. But anyway, Senjumaru gets absorbed from that. So I'm protecting, mitigating that character directly. I've got life-giving spores protecting, supporting my 2 tanks, and I'm throwing the bulk of my controls and debuffs over here at the loose group. That the only person that's really even attending to them right now, I'm not even sure the tanks even saw these guys, which shame on you, tanks. Come on, guys, get those eyes in the back of your head. Our poor blaster's down here all by himself. Nate's like probably going, OMG, I'm screwed, because there's 2 bosses, a lieutenant, and whatever, a minion or 2 over here that are all heading in his direction, because everybody likes blaster meat, right? They're all after that juicy, tender stuff. So boom, he's potentially in trouble. So you see how I split my attention, and just this power set combo I think is really good at this. I do notice this guy is not as damaging as my defender. Guess I should have grabbed another incarnate because we do need some more to hit. Yeah, so Nate's got the damage. We're good over here. That side's eliminated. Now we got to go over here to support the tanks with DPS. Their ready mitigation's fine over here. They're not taking any damage. Right, nobody's really taking any damage, so we're good with that. Now I can kind of go in more just attack mode. And it turns out I end up probably being one of the top damage dealers with this group just because the tanks don't have much damage, I don't think. Our Dominators got lots of control, but I didn't see gobs of damage coming from them. All right, they put a sleep out there again. I like that they're opening with the sleep. That's my favorite move with the mind control as well. I hear the TK going again. They got that ice crap. So it looks like what they're doing is pushing crap into a pack and then they drop the nuke. We got 46 on Ayura. Toolman. It's 50. All right, so we got a 50, 48, 46, and 45, I think. So we're not a very high level team, and we're going against 54s. So they're +3 to me, +4 to Toolman, but +5 to Ayura, Senjumaru, and Nate. So this wasn't an easy cakewalk mission, at least by the numbers. But if you watch what happens, we barely get scratched. And it's a combination of the controls, with the Dominator contributing for sure. But just the support, the buffing, and the debuff, I think, from Dark really shows itself. You'll see when you take a look at the numbers. Redux. I'm gonna go ahead and pull up that stat sheet because you guys want to see this, I think. All right, here's Fey Wode's analysis, and so this mission time. Spoiler: the second longest missions besides, so far my two controllers have taken the longest, 81 total minutes with these missions. There was the extra mission in there, total of 6, but still this was a fairly decent length of time. Would have been mid 70s, at least compared to Screaming Tree. Screaming Tree's missions were like 60 minutes or something like that. But anyway, if you take a look at the damage, where is it here? Lethality and threat, mitigation. I want to show you. Resilience, these numbers. So check this out. Total 16,000 is the amount of damage that was taken by this character total over the 6 missions. Now compare that to Screaming Tree from the other day. Screaming Tree, 32,000 with 5 total missions and 62 minutes. So shorter total time by like 20 minutes, one less mission, but took twice the damage. Okay, than this one. Now I know, hey, oh, it must have been all the Dominator stuff. Yeah, but the Dominator was only with me for the first 3 missions. Okay, so the damage of the first 3 missions, you could, chalk it up to the Dominator. But look at these other missions. I had as much or less damage with missions 4 and 5 with the second team with no Dominator. Must have been the 2 tanks. Again, my last missions, I had 1 tank. So yeah, the tanks and the Dominator, sure. But it's still half the damage. So I think what I'm seeing here, what you're seeing as well, is it could be the mythological synergy that we're talking about, we're looking for, between that control set, in particular, the minus to hit, combined with nature, which on Screaming Tree, his nature numbers were much better, I thought, overall than what Electrical Affinity was providing as far as mitigation went. I don't want to spoil the comparison head-to-head stuff, anymore. So I have a whole other video coming up about that. We'll take a look at the side-by-side comparisons between the two. But just, overall, this combo is just freaking devastating. And I'll kind of show you this, that within the controllers, so I did the side-by-side on the 2 controllers. You can see that. Here, this is the numbers that we're looking at right here. Electrical Affinities in blue on the left, and Nature Affinities in orange on the right. And here's the side-by-sides. This is the rate, so this is the DPM, damage per minute. And the Electrical Affinity controller's taken 562. The Nature is 198, so that's like 2.5 times or something like that less per minute. And these are both controllers, right? So they both have controls. But the difference is Electro Affinity, obviously, Nature Affinity, both kind of do the same basic premise. This one is, clicky and a bunch of circuit jumpy stuff. This is patchy and bloomy, aura stuff. But you've got a big difference in these two control sets. This is plant, remember? Plant has a lot of some confusion. The creepers kind of aggro pulling, smacking things around. A lot of damage sources coming out from every which direction. But this has a lot of minus to hit with dark control, and I'm very suspicious that that is the true source of the mitigation we're seeing here. I don't have any other dark yet that I can, like Dark Blast or something like that with a defender. That would be an interesting kind of comparison, be like a Dark Blast nature defender versus this Dark Control nature. That would be an interesting, matchup there. Looking at that and see if that has another impact. But just between the two controllers, you can see a very similar difference. So this combination. Nature Affinity is so far shown itself to be superior to Electrical Affinity as far as mitigating damage, or at least support. But I think you combine it with this to hit debuff and the controls that you're getting from Dark, and dude, this is like a seriously strong combo. And you can see that the error bars are showing you this is a significant difference. Okay, so in other words, when we look at this bar here, this is the average right there, the 562. This is the average at the top of this bar, 198. The error bars then tell you that the potential average based upon the numbers we're looking at, the real average is somewhere in this range, somewhere between here and there. On average, somewhere in there. Same thing down here, right? It's somewhere between here is the true average. But these things are so different from each other. There's no overlap is what we're looking for. Overlap of those bars, the error bars. There's no overlap. That tells you it's a significant difference. This is real, is what this is saying. So this is a real difference between electrical affinity paired with plant control and nature affinity paired with dark control on these two teams with these missions. So this is real. Exactly what it was that caused that? Is it the sets? Is it the build? Is it the teammates? Is it the moon and the stars that they can't really say for 100%. We need more data to really draw any conclusions, but for sure this combination is good at what it's designed to do, which is, control, mitigate, support. And don't forget that I also built her to be pretty damagey with, reactive interface with the assault hybrid. I had some damage procking going on, that kind of thing. So lots of things going here. Lots of interesting stuff to take a look at. So let's go back to our video and continue. I don't know if I should give our tank absorb. All right, we've got ourselves nice mitigation. Alpha-ing with the sleep. Good job by Senjumaru again. Then I go in just for PBAOE using Entangling Aura. Heart of Darkness. Summon the Haunts. So I've chosen Circle here, like the full-on group. Little kidnap mission. Start us off. These masters, these bosses are dangerous because they are combining their debuff patches like Tar Patch with some nasty death nukes and some pretty strong, powerful AoE or finisher punches and stuff. Again, kind of throwing out the support, but team already left. They're like, F it. So I don't know who I got with that buff. Probably not much, but oh well. Boom, there's Void. Follow that up with my PBOE stun, Heart of Darkness. Ghosts are all gone. I have the double hit on my Assault Hybrid. So it has a chance to hit twice for, I think, 50% damage or something like that. So boost my overall output. Like, this character doesn't have a lot of damaging attacks, so I have to maximize what I do have. So I'm doing a lot of like plinker damage overall. Not sure what kind of Dominator Senju is. Senju Maru. Mind Thorn. All right. So we got lots of control. I have a Mind Thorn as well. I think I did the video on her during my 50/50 showcase, maybe. I think it was my Mind Thorn Bewitcher or the 2020 Rewind. One of those two. I'm pretty sure I did the build video and such. It's the first time I've TP'd into the group and nuked. That's something else I can do. I don't think I showed it in the solos, but you can use your teleport you get from the sorcery pool. Dive in the middle of a group. You've got Entangling Aura, so you're gonna hold minions. Absorbs with my defender. Yeah, I definitely was noticing the difference in the total buff numbers. When I was hitting absorb with Screaming Tree, I was getting like 1,000 if I had Click Clarion. Here I'm getting half that, 525. Absorbs with my defender. So definitely better numbers with the defender. Question is, does it matter? With the amount of mitigation you're getting, does it matter if it's 500 or 1,000? Anyway, I was saying that one thing you can do is teleport in. You got Entangling Aura that holds, and then you got your nuke. You can hit Void, or you can hit Heart of Darkness to throw the stun out there. Controller combo. And we got a compliment from, I think, somebody saying, wow, these holds and controls are great. And then Senjumaru just found out that if you confuse the boss when he nukes, he hurts himself. This is true. One of the best uses of confuse. All right, so we're going to go finish this group off. Watch out for ambush. This is a rescue, so we're expecting an ambush. So I really like to get in a melee with this character, at least close, so I can leverage the Entangling Aura. And I can... And I was just saying, I love having a Dominator that just like freaking takes... I want to go back on that because... And this is little... To all you little Dominators out there. I mean, watch what Senjumaru has been doing. Listen to what they're saying. They know what the hell they're doing. They're confident. They're skilled. They're dominating. This is what you want to do as a Dominator. So I'm like, props to Senju. I don't know who Senju is, but Senju, if you happen to watch, thumbs up. It's doing a great job. You know, they're not afraid of anything. I don't know, who cares? You got half the hit points than anybody else. You got freaking controls. You got domination. That's all you need. Go crazy. So they're just like they're like right up in there. They don't care. They're Mind Thorn. Mind Thorn's not a very melee-y type of set, but they're F it. They're up here. And then when I said, "Hey, watch out! There's an ambush," like, whatever, ambush to be put to sleep. So I'm like, yes, that's what I want to hear. Dominator's got it locked down. Don't worry about it. Then the ambush shows up over there. They're waiting for us. How quaint. The stupid ambushes lately have been total trash at this point. Domi's going over there handling it themselves. I got this. I forget if they get in trouble here. I think that at some point they do. Look, they've confused them. They slept them. Whatever. I think they threw a fear out there. Now, of course, the bosses have gotten loose, and I'll send you some trouble. All right, overconfident Dominator. That's right. Now I can support. Don't worry, Senju. This on you? There's so much control now. This is true. Dommies always get trouble. They're almost as bad as blasters. Although I think Dommies can back it up. Dominator is probably my favorite archetype to play just because you're walking into a fight every time, outgunned, undermanned, whatever, and you're like, F it, I don't care. I don't care I don't have shields. I don't care I don't have mez protection. I don't care I only got a couple blasts. I don't care that I only have a couple melee punches. But you cobble together all these different things and then throw domination on top of that. It's just abusive. All right, so here we go. We wait about a minute just to get this freaking guy out of here. Look at this. That was like a minute and a half of just escorting. I mean, these ambushes got to get improved. Like, I don't mind an escort, but at least attack me. All right, so boom. Next mission. So, but anyway, that was, if you look at that first mission's time, pull that up again. You know, couple, almost 2 minutes of that were escorting the guy out, a minute and a half or whatever. So it was a total of 12 minutes, but probably only about 10 minutes of actual potential danger action. This next one, we're going to go, it's a tip mission, and it's taken us 18 missions devouring Earth. This mission produced my highest output stats of all so far. If you take a look at this, spoiler, I didn't die a single time, I don't think. I'll double check that as I watch this video, but I don't think I had any deaths. But mission 2, check this out. I'm going to be on par for 128 foe defeats. That's the highest I've had. You know, it's pretty much double any other mission that this character had. And the damage output I do in this one is pretty high too. 86,000 some change, higher than the Mayhem mission, which was longer and, you know, more targets. Higher damage output than mission 3 when I only had 2 teammates. So I was just putting out a ton of damage. Ton of foes I defeated, and I didn't take a huge gob of damage either. So this was the best mission I've had individually. So we're cave map, like the ITF caves. We're against Devouring Earth. This is the first time we're taking these guys on. They've got lots of debuff. They got lots of control. They got those stupid little emanator things. I didn't count the emanators as defeats, though, because they don't fight back. The Karens. The one thing I think I got a lot of defeats from, though, were the summonables, like the swarms and like the fragments there, the rubble piles and the shards. Let me pull that up again, because I actually made note of this, because that was one of my concerns, is that, well, maybe I'm getting a lot of stats from that. But I went back and looked, and mission 2, when I put out the 86,000 damage, my highest damage output yet, but I can only count about 2,500 of that was against like little baby targets, like the little fragment rubbles and things like that. I eliminated the Karens. I'm not counting that at all. So even though, you know, there was a bunch of them, it wasn't that much damage. And then the defeats I had, you know, I had 128 total. Only 45 of those were like the little baby ones. So even if I subtracted the 45, so they don't count, those swarms and things, I'm still, you know, 83 kills, which is my highest. So mission 2 was definitely the most just brutal as far as just sheer numbers of foes. But I think you're going to see that it doesn't matter. I mean, nobody dies, right? Damage incoming's minimal. Check out the risk. Ally defeats. Again, I need to double check this, but nobody died in the first 2 missions. So spoiler again, nobody's dying. And only one person is going to end up dying, I think, mission 3. Total, if my numbers are correct, only 4. This is the fewest deaths I've had so far. My Screaming Tree was pretty close. I think he had 7 total, but that was 4. I mean, it's like minimal, and 3 of those came on the Mayhem mission. So this team that we had right here, even though we were under-leveled against the opponents, we were just handling it. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with the combination of Nature's powerful buffing and Dark Control's like uber, not just control, but it's debuff. I don't think we can quantify that too well, like how much debuff that Dark was thrown out. You also, again, you have the Dominator in there too, helping with the mitigation of the controls. But, you know, I don't think that's the only story here. I really think the Dark Control is powerful not just control, but a debuff set. So let's kind of go back and see if this is what you, I mean, you guys can watch yourself. You tell me what you think. An entangling aura, of course, helps. Let's keep going. I like putting that absorb on the Dom, give him a little bit more tankiness. Seems to be pretty aggressive, so. Let's open up with my 3 cones: fear, immobilize, and knock down. Drop the PBAOE no nuke. Got the patch down. Controls are going in, stacking now. Yeah, a year is like, I'm going to start rounding shit up, I think, as they start doing. Now, check this out, guys. Classic pug maneuver, right? We are, as I was just saying, essentially steamrolling things. Now, we weren't out damaging like crazy, right? We're not damage gods. You can see that. It's taken longer to kill than you saw with my defender and the other missions. But things are very safe, very calm, very cool, very, organized. And what happens here, check this out, back it up. This is a typical, again, pug maneuver. Pugs start getting cocky because you've got, in the previous mission, somebody had mentioned it. They had said, these controls and these buffs are just awesome. And I don't think it was Nate, but they're like, yeah, controls and buffs equals great, right? We're barely taking damage. We're walking through here like it's no big deal. And so here we are. We got another group locking them down, beating them up. No big deal. And then what happens? You see Ayira, our tank, takes off down the tunnel here to go, I think, and round up or aggro. I think they say later another group. But we're all back here. Now watch what happens to them because they get a little bit cocky. Again, remember, these are +5 to them. So you've been pretty much surviving no problem against +5s. But now that you're like, hey, everything's going great, let's dive in and watch. Don't get ahead of yourself back there. Okay, they just popped some huge power there to get absorb. So then we have to go in and, I don't want to say save them, but I mean, just notice how you go from hardly anything happening to you to you go down about half your damage and have to pop your big absorb power. I don't know what their power set was. I'd have to double check again, but you can see they had to hit a big old chunk of absorb here. So they were probably down about 50% at this point. And I don't know if it's the first time they hit this power. I wasn't paying attention, but it's interesting. As soon as you go solo, you're now having to rely upon, I don't know, a tier 9 power or something like that to hit a huge pile of absorb. Even that's not going to help you much because these guys are throwing all that toxic crap and stuff. So boom, you get out of range of the support, the buffs, the controls that people are saying, hey, this is great, everything's going awesome. And you go down and try to, I don't want to say solo, you're trying to do this tanky thing, maybe round up the next group. You always see tanks do this, right? They do the hopscotch maneuver where you got a group, right? And you're blowing this stuff up, right? And the tank's like, oh, I'm going to go get another one. Well, the rest of you guys are still over here killing it. And then you try to come after them, and then they're jumping out of the next group over here, and they never finish a group. To me, whatever. Whatever. Play the way you're going to play, guys. But I'm just saying, finish a damn group before you jump and grab another one. Unless you're going to bring them back for the kill, great, do it. But a tank's job, and I'm not trying to be hypercritical here of a year. I don't know. We had 2 tanks, so we were doing fine. So it wasn't like the team got in trouble. It was they got in trouble. But the point is I see this with a lot of tanks, especially. They'll just hopscotch and just keep going. And as soon as the team catches up, starts throwing down some AoE, they're like, all right, you guys got it. We're moving on to the next one. And the problem a lot of times, especially like let's say council these days, is the resin bosses and stuff, and those guys pop up and they start beating up the squishies. And meanwhile, you're 3 rooms ahead and you can't do anything anymore. I mean, as a job, your tank is to protect the damn team. You have as much responsibility to protect the team as a defender or controller does, maybe even more, because usually you're the one initiating things. So, as a tank, you should be responsible. Tank equals responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. You've been given all these shields and defenses and hit points and things, and yet you're just, using it to solo 3 rooms ahead. It doesn't help us. I'm not saying that's what a year is doing, but I'm just saying this is an example of it. And it's probably because they're saying, hey, buffs are great. You guys got it. I'm going to move ahead. They get themselves into trouble. Do they die? No. But, I had to break off contact from the last group to come up here. And again, I'm not saying I saved them, but just, all right, let me help you. Let me support what's going on here. Let me throw out the fear and kind of get these guys debuffed so that I don't need to worry about scraping you off the floor. All right, so we got them controlled here. Now I move up because I see what they're doing. Fear. Plus the debuff. Then the Dominator's throwing stuff in here because they have to deal with it. I've put down the patch. Or not the patch, but the spray there. Comes the patch. All right, so we all have to move up. Nice having that pure blaster nukage. Got triple energy font. Not sure. How did that all get pulled back? Might have been a taunt from behind me. It's almost like they got TK'd back there, but Dominator's behind me. I think, unless they're above me somehow. Anyway, they all went backwards somehow. That's weird. Okay, what's pulling them? You guys see that? Does TK work in reverse now? Like as a pull? Is there something about TK I don't know? Because I swear to God, it looks like they're dragging them. Can you actually steer people with telekinesis now? I need to look that up. Does anybody know? All right, somebody out there, tell me. Telekinesis, mind control, does that work in reverse now? Because I heard it. I heard a sound behind me, that bionic man sound. And then all of a sudden, I saw the domination on them. And then they all started moving in the. I gotta look this up. Hold on a second. Pause the vid. Yeah, no, I just looked it up. It doesn't say. It just says they're immobilized, they get repelled, and they're not helpless. But I swear it looked like they got sucked backward by telekinesis. So unless I didn't see and the Dominator's over my head or something like that, pushing them back this way, maybe. I don't know if Senju has some sort of fly power or whatever, but it looked like they got pushed backward or pulled. Yeah, triple stack energy font. I've been doing that a lot lately. That's how much I'm like spamming my AoE immobilize. I missed that. Let me see. They were just talking to Senju about something. All right, here we go. What does that say? Pull those mobs into your bubble for you. Yeah, how the hell does telekinesis work backwards? Because Senju just said they pulled it. I don't know how they did that. I know telekinesis is usually a push, and I know people always wanted it to be a like I can pull, I can push. So unless they've made a change in Homecoming to how it works, or there was some combination of powers, I'm not sure how they did it. But I don't know if anybody knows how that works now. Let me know because that's freaking awesome if you can control the direction of telekinesis now. If you can, I'll be pumped. I'm gonna have to start grabbing it. Usually I avoid it. We got a bunch of incoming now. Saw Toolman start to take some extra damage. I think there's another group around the corner, maybe. Send in the Fear, send in the Haunts, put the patch out, get the debuff toggle on there. So even if there is trouble, it doesn't last long. So all these guys, enemies, are +4 and +5 to my teammates here. We don't seem to notice too much other than a little bit slow on the defeats. And I also didn't spare summoning my lore pets. Oh, hold on there, buddy. Hold on, man. Senju got out front of my support I was summoning. That's also another example of how I know that it's my buffing that's helping the team, because Senju has been dominating this whole time. But the minute that I'm not directly engaging enemies, watch what happens with Senju. Okay, they're throwing a control. I'm summoning some stuff, lining up a patch, and boom, they're like half health and having to retreat. So when I see stuff like that, it shows that, hey, the character, the build is contributing immensely to survivability. Because if I had no impact, then my lack of action there wouldn't have mattered. They would have been just fine. So it's when you see stuff like that, you can tell, oh, it's not just the Dominator's doing something, or not just the tank is doing something. Look at our tanks just grabbing +5 bosses. No biggie, right? Yeah, I appreciated our tanks were just like, oh, these are +5s, whatever. They put their face in there anyway. They were pretty survivable, as you saw. Toolman was taking a beating every now and then, but wasn't anything crazy. So I don't know if the reason so much damage was getting done. One thing I'm wondering is the Cairns. I think they do damage resistance or something like that aura for the Devouring Earth. So maybe that's why I did more damage, just because I had to throw out more to beat them, and then throw all the little summonable, not summonables, but the little minion things might be why I had additional output of defeats and damage. So I don't know. It's a combination, perhaps. All right. So I comment that, hey, we're doing great, given that they're a bunch of +5s. The only thing I really have to make it faster is my was it Wild Growth or whatever, Wild Bastion, the plus to hit. And nobody's complaining. Yeah, it's the other thing. You ever been on a team? You got like you're taking on some +5s, or whatever, and people are all like, "Oh, lower it to +3 or whatever. This is too hard." Like, how easy do you want the game? Like just curb stomping every single group that you see. It needs to be a little bit challenging, right? I mean, yeah, I don't like missing, but I don't think we're missing. It's mostly just could do some more damage. All right, so in this tip mission, we're looking for Blast Furnace. Once we find him, he follows us for a little bit and then becomes bad. You got to beat him down. One of the huge sources of damage for me in this, the pets, I think it was the highest pet damage output I've had yet. It's just crazy. He was packing like 90% to hit. Like if you take a look at his or her damage output for the pets this time around, check out these crazy ass numbers. 27,000, 44,000, 28,000, 16,000. Only 2,000 in that one because I didn't bring out the diviners. The lore pets, 36, almost 37, 156 total thousand. And then compare that to the damage that she did by herself. So her pets, I think it's the first time yet this has happened where they out damaged me for the entire time of this mission. All of them. And I actually do have this graph here to show you guys. Check this out. Here's the dark purple is her personal damage, and then that lavender color, that's the pet damage. So boom, pets out damaging, pets are out damaging about 50-50, pets out damaging about 50-50. So the pets were just doing crazy amounts of damage. All right, let's continue with this. So we're fighting our way through. I think these guys have some minus to hit or plus defense or something with their one of their emanators. I think it's the damage resistance to Karens, if I'm not mistaken. Has he got shield defense, maybe? Toolman? He's got like a golf. Yeah, his shield and like mace or something. He's got a golf club he's beating people with. You don't see that combo too much anymore. All right, so here you go. Check that out. All right, so here's another one where a couple of our teammates peel off and go after something. Try to figure out where they're going. All right, so we're finishing this fight, and Swarm took off. I think our Dominator and our Blaster chase. Let me see what happened here. Blaster's behind us. All right, Senjumuru goes ducking around the corner. Now, I'm not sure if she goes to chase that swarm or she sees another group coming, but again, this is one of these risky things. You know, if you're going ahead, just jumping ahead to go take on the next group, that could be a problem. I mean, I'm not too concerned. Like, if I'm a permadom, I might do that, jump ahead and throw an AoE sleep because they're close, and you want to make sure that I see some stuff is flying away like a swarm, and I see maybe pets are starting to give chase. I might go and throw down a control, just kind of hold that down. So let's see if that's what Senjumuru is doing, or they're engaging another enemy. Because if they're engaging another group by themselves, that becomes dangerous. That's one of those, hey, yeah, everything's going great because we're all together, but as soon as you peel off by yourself, now you're in danger. Can we get containment any easier? Because I've got enough control of my own that, they're always. Looks like they're fighting. Yeah, all right, so I don't understand what's happening here. All right, so we're all good. Everything's fine. Senjumuru takes off. We're fighting. Team is making me get containment any easier because I've got enough control of my own that, they're always. All right, so I'm trying to figure out why is Senjumuru way up here by themselves. This is just because, hey, you guys got it back here. I'll go ahead to the next group. Okay, but is this really helping us? Unless you chased after and destroyed something. Okay, that's fine. You took a runner out. But it looks like they're engaging the next enemy already. And the fiery orb, I think, is attached to their sleep, which can then attack and wake things up. So, he's not sure what's going on. All right, then Toolman's up there. Yeah, I mean, okay. Let me follow this out. When does Toolman go? Toolman, I think he does it right there. He takes off too. We got the. All right, so now we got two guys up here. Now watch what happens to me. Okay, so here's where this is why I'd say about sticking together because so two of the players goes ahead, Senjumaru and the Toolman follows, and they, or at least Senjumaru looks like they've engaged the enemy. So by the time I walk up there, and really before I can do anything, the enemy's already attacking back. Right? You just saw I'm coming up, and one of the fungus thingies there lobs its choking spore. So I'm held. I didn't know what the hell's going on. I walk up there and pow, I'm walking right into this thing. So that's one of these things where, if people would just chill for a second, hey, is everything clear? Okay, let's move up as a group. Or if you're going to go up there, make sure you got that all just handled. Not again, nothing bad happens from this, but it's just one of these things where you got to watch out because if our team was a little bit weaker, maybe I was a little bit delayed getting there, whatever, boom, it's even worse. Or this boss peels off and comes and just stomps your face in. Let's see. I'm just not sure why we're splitting up there for a second. Yeah, like we got this boss back here just roaming wild. Yeah, it just seems like it led to more risk than it needed to. And I'm not sure what the payoff was. Send you if you're watching, let me know. Is there something you're chasing after? I don't know. It just looked like you took off and attacked the next group without the rest of the team there. Toolman dove in, I think, to try to back you up. And then, again, nothing terrible happens. But it's just, all right. I mean, don't know if it was needed to do that. Just led to a little bit more risk. I'm all for taking risky, moves, but that one didn't seem to matter, have a point to it. All right, this could get dicey. Let me get some controls going. Looks like we got like two groups here. It's hard to say. Get the patch up there. The debuff is out. Just trying to get this guy out of the way that's back here with us. Start spamming some crap in there. Can we split the team again? Senjumaru took off again? Okay, there goes Senju. So again, Senjumaru takes off again. I don't know if they're just like, hey, I can handle the next group already. You guys finish this up? Okay, sure, we'll finish it up. But, if you're going to get yourself into trouble, like right there, boom. Okay, nothing bad happens, but you'll notice that Senju takes damage for. Didn't need to. If they just stuck here for another 5 seconds, let us finish. Right here, they take bam, 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 get hit 2, 3 times. They're taking damage right there. Got to come in and sort of play cleanup. See, okay, here's the issue I'm having with it is that it turns me into cleanup buffer rather than, worrying about my alpha striking controls. Because this is one of the problems I think as a controller you have is that the duality of your role, control, alpha, attack, aggressive, or support, buff, beta, weight. And, I'm doing pretty successfully being attacking and controlling, or throwing some buffs as we go. But if by the time I come around the corner, you're already damaged, controlled, whatever, death's door sort of thing, I suddenly have to just go full on, buff heal mode, which takes me out of my ability to do my controlling. And so suddenly and I think this may have explained why some of these fights took longer than in the previous mission. Let me go back and double check the time on this one, because I think this one did go a bit longer. We'll take a look at the time that we spent on this one. 18 minutes. So it's an extra 6 minutes. So same exact team. Cave map. It wasn't that bad of a cave map, but it took us 6 minutes longer. So about 50% longer to finish this mission. And this one was an escort that had a couple minutes of, lollygagging. So really, this was an extra 8 minutes, let's say, to just go and find Maelstrom. Enemies weren't necessarily any tougher than the circle, yet it took us a bit longer. And so I think part of that might be what I'm seeing here in these last 2, 3 encounters is that we're splitting the team on a couple occasions, and what happens is that if the team splits and we engage the enemy prematurely before we have like complete like lockdown or whatever, or just nukage, you'll notice they're getting their cairns out, they're summoning stuff, so they have more defenses put up rather than us just getting in there and obliterating them as a group. So I think that may be what's happening. It's also slowing things down because, like I was just saying, I'm turning into more buff mode rather than attack mode. My buffs aren't doing damage, right? My healing's not doing damage. I need to get my controls out there. I need to get my stuff on target. So I think this could be why we're seeing some of that extra 50% time to finish this mission. Right? The enemy has more chance to kind of react and respond because we're getting more solo people on the team rather than just let's move as a group of 5, annihilate the next group, move on, lather, rinse, repeat, stay together. I keep watching this to see if that keeps happening or not. And then somebody's like, hey, I'm hitting like a wet noodle with the Karen up. Well, if we lock them down, they can't summon them. I mean, our main damager is Nate. So if Nate is able to lay down the smack, we got this. The tanks are in there just pounding on 1 or 2 guys, keeping everything in the group. Our Domi doesn't have a ton of AoE, other than the controls have some AoE potential, but Thorns is not a big old AoE damaging attack set. I don't have a bunch of AoE damage either. My pets are putting in work. So I think it'd be smarter if we could stay as a unit. And again, look what's happening. Okay, watch Senju. So Senju, I think, is making a mistake here. This is the third, maybe fourth group in a row where they're preemptively engaging him, which is fine if there's a reason for it. Like, let's say, okay, so let's say that group is like right here and their potential aggro. Then, yeah, engage him with the sleeps makes sense, right? But we have a team of 5. That's 100% damage. If instead of applying that 100% damage to finish off a group, we split off, leaving one person to go do 20% of whatever, and then the 4 behind are now applying only 80% to finish off this group. This slows things down. And then what's the point of this? If you're not actually damaging anything, you're not needed to eliminate an aggro situation because we don't have an aggro. It's like you're prepping the battlefield, right? You prep, which would make sense if your prep is going to decrease the enemy's HP resistance, something like that, so that by the time the rest of the team catches up, that extra 80% is now applied. Goes faster, but it's not going any faster because we're sending one person over here who doesn't look like they're doing any damage at all. They're sleeping. They're not doing any prep of getting the enemy softened up for some massive nuke that we're about to unleash. And it's slowing us down because this 80% is not enough to easily finish off the remains. Because what remains, of course, are the bosses that have the highest HP when you need the most damage on target. So I would argue the people that are kind of skipping ahead and sort of, oh, I'll go ahead and get the next group started. Maybe on a team of 8, like, I've seen it, right? You got a team of 8 bunch of incarnates. A couple people run ahead and they're just nuking the next group because they don't even need the rest of the team. They can clear it out. But in a scenario like this, we only got 5 players, most people are facing +5s. You're not effective solo, okay? It's not going to make a difference. And the only thing I would even make different, let's say I jumped ahead and threw down my buff patch because this way I'm prepping the field so when my rest of my allies get there, they've got some healing. Even then, that wouldn't make terrible sense. I could probably be more effective back here applying damage on these targets. So anyway, I just see Senjumaru breaks off again to engage. Now, let's see what they're prepping the field with. Is it even necessary? Okay, they're throwing out confusion. Okay, now, maybe they're in a hurry, but I don't think so because they stick with us in the next mission. So it looks like they just threw mass confusion over here. And these guys look like they start fighting. Okay, but now watch the result of this. This turns into potential freaking disaster. So they start fighting. So this, you could argue, hey, this is lowering the hit points of the targets, making them easier to kill because they're killing themselves. Of course, some people would be upset because you just lowered, oh, there goes my XP. I really don't care about the XP. So it is useful in that sense of getting in the fight. But what about this group? It looks like they got slept. I don't know if that's just happening now, but it looks like mass confusion's over here. It looks like a sleep is being thrown over here. But look, this guy is now aggroed. He's summoning a swarm. This guy might be aggroed over here as well. These guys are certainly aggroed and fighting. And if you notice the guys in the back, they don't look to be confused at all. If I clear some of this off, it looks like those boss builder bots back here, they're like now aggroed and they're like, hey, what's happening? So we've and it looks like Maelstrom is right here and he's not confused. It looks like he's aggroed. So I'm not sure where the mass confusion went. Somewhere back here, clearly, but it looks like this guy's not confused. These guys don't look confused. Maelstrom maybe missed a bunch. I don't know. And they got this group. So now we have a problem. We have 2 aggroed groups. We have the primary group that was attacked. And then we got our second group over here, which was aggroed. I don't know if maybe Senju didn't see them and said, oh, attack this group, and then missed these, and then said, oh, crap, there's another group. Let me throw the sleep over here. Mind control is oodles of control. Senju easy could have slept this group, confused this group, and held that group, all with just mind control. That's how powerful that control set is. It doesn't look like that's what happened. So now we've got 2 groups aggroed, 1 and 2. And then look what this then does with the team. So the rest of us come up. First of all, you see Senju backpedals out of there because maybe they realize, oh crap. Toolman, who I've seen done this a couple times, is going, hey, Senju's in trouble or something like that. But look where they're engaging. They're engaging deep. Really deep, right? There's a third group sitting over here, maybe a fourth. There's somebody over there. But there's definitely a third group, right? Fourth, maybe. And if he goes right here and starts a fight, there's easily aggro here to give us now 3 groups. Now we have over aggro. We've got 1 group right here that's going to come into the soft underbelly of the party if our 2 tanks go diving deep, because we also have an NPC who, I don't know, he was conning as friendly, but he was not attacking. So I don't know if he would actually trigger any aggro or not, but he's going to get some attention. You got our tanks coming up here getting attention. Our other tanks back here, it looks like Ayura is focusing this way. So now we have our tanks split between 2 groups, which is fine. I mean, they should hopefully both be able to handle themselves. But now, what else is going to happen? Now, here's your buffer going, do I support tank 1? Do I support tank 2? Do I throw a control over here? Do I throw a control over here? What's he going to do if he goes over there? right? I mean, now you've got your supporter going, what am I supposed to do now? There's too much splitting. And what was the point of it? Right? It wasn't like we accidentally just ran up here and ran into this headlong. Senju came up here and purposely engaged this group. To what end, I don't know. You know, and again, I'm not calling out. Yeah, I mean, hey, call me out. But hey, I don't know what's going on. That didn't make sense to me as I look at it in hindsight, right? It didn't give us anything. Now, had you come in here, let's say, and throw the confused over here, get these guys beating the hell out of each other, then we could quick destroy them real fast, and then keep our eyes on this. Where here's where you throw your sleep, so that if this group kind of looks like they're aggroing, sleep them while we finish this group, and then we can go and engage this group. So we have our, again, we have our 100% maximum capability focused on one team or on one section. Instead, we're splitting off, right? We've got 20% headed this way at least. I mean, I'm focused in two directions, so I guess call it another 10% going this way, 10% that way. And then we're maybe applying another 60% over here. I don't know. So it looks like we got a 30-70 split going right here. That's what ends up happening if you over aggro and whatever. And it's not like we're all a bunch of incarnated, 50 plus ones with all our tier 4 crap unlocked here. We're not. I'm the only one who has tier 3s. Let's see how this plays out. I don't think anybody dies, but let me just see. It turns into a bigger slog than I think is needed. Okay, I'm taking damage. Tools dipping back. All right. Got confusion. We do have aggro coming in from far. There is some confusion. Fighting happened back there. Maelstrom came around the side. Maelstrom's not even engaged by either of our tanks. Toolman's taking a beating. Just wasted my nuke. I don't know. All right, let's rewind this because things are getting silly now. All right, so let's back this up. So here we're finishing this group. Senju takes off. We're still finishing this group over here. All right, done. Now we go. Senju has thrown that in there. Slept the first group. Toolman's aggroed. All right, so here's what it looked like it happened. Looks like Senju came in and slept this group. That was look like action 1. Action 2 then was like mass confusion deep, getting them to fight. Okay, that could work, right? We sleep these guys, we'll come back and finish them. But let me get these guys distracted with mass confusion over here. Let them fight. I still think it would have been better off doing it the other way. Mass confusion the near group. Because this way, if they get straggler and start shooting, they're going to fire this direction that's further away from you. Whereas you see these guys, right? They start going this way. They start coming this way. They start going this way. They're all over the place. I'd rather have my confused people clustered close to me and there's a wall here to prevent them from getting too far, or they're coming towards me and I just blast them. So I would say sleep these guys, mass confuse these guys. All right. But now, Toolman in response is like, oh, there's action in the back. Because when Toolman entered the map, he saw that Senju was attacking this direction. So he probably wasn't even looking over here. Just said, oh, I need to back up Senju. Then you see him go, stops his attack and goes, oh crap, they're confused. Let me turn my attention this way, where you see the rest of us are now focusing our attention. Okay, but I've already taken some damage. So is Dan. I think they were lobbing stuff at us. And then you're going to see Maelstrom. He might have been confused for a second or something like that. But then I see him come peel around this way and ends up over here for most of the fight. Now, he's arguably the most dangerous guy out there. And he was barely confused, if at all. Because I don't know if that was a dominated confused thrown out or not. Even so, these guys are +5 to our dominator, so your confusion is not going to last very long, regardless. So just watch sort of how this gets very chaotic now all of a sudden. Let's back it up again. Oops. Okay, they're aggroed to the right. Toolman backs off, but now Toolman is aggroed. He's got guys coming towards him. Maelstrom's firing at him. Bunch of fighting happening here. Toolman's taking hits from two groups now.
Gun boy.
I don't have line of sight on Toolman very good. He's up there in the thick of it. So Toolman, he's got a problem, right? He went this way, caught aggro. When he then backed off and then went this way, now he's got the aggro attention over here. And a year is in there somewhere. I don't see it, but it seemed like Toolman was catching way more aggro than a year was. I don't know if it got some taunt or going, and a year it doesn't. I didn't look at their specific builds, but he's definitely now catching fire from this side and the guys around him. So you see him taking a bunch of damage. Now I'm trying to get shit organized, because I'm in that controller mode. Am I going to control or am I going to buff? What do I do? He's taking damage, so I would, my cone spray only has a certain range. I got to get pretty close, and I think I'm too far away to help him from here. So then I can, summon my life-giving spore patch, throw a D toggle out there. Something needs to be contained here. So I'm trying to make up my mind. Let's see where I'm putting stuff. All right, so I see this happening, and I see it. So I am activating Shadow Field. Looks like I'm dropping Shadow Field right over here. So AoE control. So I'm seeing these guys are not slept anymore. They're coming to, and we've got attacks and crazy stuff. And I see Toolman is going deeps here. So I'm going, oh crap. So my thinking at this point is I'm going to maybe park myself over here and kind of get a patch or something laid out, depending on where Toolman ends up, and keep myself between these two groups. And in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and drop Shadow Field in here in order to get that AoE hold. So I can at least get this group contained and focus most of my attention this way. That's kind of what I'm thinking. But then I see Toolman stops and then changes direction. Okay, so we got a problem here. And I still have my life-giving spores has been not activated here. It's still activated in the room behind me. Okay, I throw in the haunts. I need a target. Toolman's taking a lot of damage. I get a toggle on Maelstrom. Get a fear. Toolman's taking a ton of damage now. Like, okay, let me get in there closer. Spray the heal. Put down the buff patch. Get some controls here. I've abandoned Maelstrom. I don't know what he's doing other than I threw a debuff toggle on him. Toolman's still taking heavy damage. All right, now the enemies over there are starting to react as well. So it looks like we got some more sleeps going over here. But I saw some fighting behind this pillar. And I don't have sight on two of my teammates. So I blaster. Nate's somewhere behind me. And I think Senju's over here. So I only have line of sight, and I've mentioned this before with my, one of the problems again with controlling, or at least buffing, is you need your targets that you want to help in front of you. If people are behind you, off to the side, behind a pillar, I can't help you. I can't see you. I don't know what's going on. All I know is, hey, you're taking damage or not from glancing over here at my team window. Okay, I just took a big old foot stomper. But I've had to get in close now in order to get better support for my tanks here. Now we're taking fire from the guys who aren't sleeping anymore. Blast, blast, blast. I'm thinking that Nate might be taking on Maelstrom. Okay, now Senju's behind me. I see some controls coming out. My pet is fighting Maelstrom.
Well, Maelstrom's dead or not.
All right, I lost track of Maelstrom. I don't know where he is. All right, we've cleaned this out. All right, did I do that? If I accidentally hit them with that or what? Back up. It's like, check out how far. All right, yeah, check it out. My Living Shadows. Look how freaking far that thing fired. So I just did my Living Shadows attack. my cone mobilize, and you'll see it goes all the way out here and hits that guy. So there's what I just did. Boom. These guys get hit. See my overpower firing away. So I tagged those guys overshot big time, which I didn't want. I wouldn't want to do. That's positioning, that's angle. So I wasn't paying attention. The guy's way far away. But at this point, what else can I do? I've only got a certain amount of attacks. I got to fire what I can. So boom, I launch it. There's Maelstrom here. He's sitting right there, and he's got my toggle on. But he's completely loose. I mean, nobody's on him. Our two tanks are right here and right here. I mean, so you want your tanks grabbing that aggro, collecting it up. But this all kind of went sideways pretty quick because of that sort of that opening aggro that Dami had done. That yeah, hey, I know I'm sounding critical, and I don't mean to pick on you, Senju, but it looks like that was unnecessary. We've got sort of containment's been broken now. Nothing bad happens, but Toolman takes a bunch of damage, and it just didn't need to be that risky. And why? We've got a controller and a dominator. This should be locked down 24/7, 365. Not an issue. There should be no. Everybody should be yawning in their seat because it's just nothing risky. Now, hey, sometimes Dommies, you guys like to play squirrely and get in there. I get it. I like Dommies. I do it myself. But in this case, we didn't need it. We didn't need to. It wasn't any risk that we had to jump in there and get, mass confusion thrown on something or sleeps thrown out there. And so it causes a bit of a problem here. And ultimately, you'll see what I end up having to deal with. Maelstrom pretty much solo back here as the rest of the team is engaging the third group coming up. All right, so we're fighting away. Now I have aggro deep. So people are shooting at me from range because I just hit them with my.
Well, if Maelstrom's dead or not.
I hit him with my cone. All right, now Toolman goes to taunt. The fear. I don't know if that fear was my fear. Again, I've got Maelstrom over here. All right, Nate's with me. Yura's still back here. All right, now Maelstrom's cooked. We still have stragglers attacking, 3 or 4 of them. Okay, we got 3, 4 stragglers, so we can't even get 100% attack on the third group.
Dingleberry go.
See, and again, we're taking damage over here. I'm like, let's try to get the mission ended if we need to. So I click through Blast Furnace's tree of dialogue. That turns him bad. Now we're going to beat him down. And you could tell that this kind of went sideways because the other thing that I noticed is when I was looking at my damage, I don't know if it's on this one or not, but damage taken. Is it on this one? Yeah. I don't know. I have it on the like the damage sources. I don't have it on here. But anyway, I was taking a bunch of damage from the antimatter particles that those bots, those clockwork bots were firing out. So you don't see a ton of it right here, but the energy damage and stuff like that was coming from those. But I get a bunch of hits on me and my allies for all of that just robot clockwork damage, and all that was right there in that group in the corner. There was one time we encountered them, and they did like the second most damage to my character that whole mission, right? So if you take a look at that mission 2, look at the second highest damage source I'm taking is energy damage right here. Okay, this is all Devouring Earth. Devouring Earth doesn't do energy damage, right? They have smashy, punchy stuff, some toxic stuff, lethal. Right, there's the DE damage. This is all from those clockwork. And this is all in that last room, and this is all from that one single group. So even though it's not a huge ton of damage, proportionally speaking, it's about a quarter of what I took. So I'm taking a quarter of my damage from one group in one room in one encounter, right? So when you look at it that way, yeah, that was way more than I needed to take. This damage number should have been even lower, right? If we had played smartly in those last like 3 groups rather than splitting off a singleton to go and engage the next group, which wasn't necessary. We could have just stuck together. I wouldn't have taken this much damage from these guys. Again, I wasn't on death's door. I didn't die. Nobody died. So at the end of the day, no harm, no foul. But I'm just saying, if this was a different encounter, this was maybe a different, teammates or something like that, it could have went south pretty quickly. Or if we didn't have a couple tanks, maybe those guys, another blaster was in the mix, a couple squishier people. Now all of a sudden, that number turns into 6,000 damage. So you got to watch out for that kind of thing. All right, so we end up beating down all these guys. We go talk to Maelstrom. We're still fighting these stupid dismantlers over here, right? This goes on for like another minute. Still fighting these guys, and then boom, finally we take these guys out. So at this point, we've run just 2 missions, and it's taken us a ton of time. I mean, this is kind of why the reason I think also the team started to break up is because it was late at night. It's like after 11 Eastern, I think at this point. We just spent 30 minutes on 2 encounters. And it wasn't like these were like uber encounters of wow, we just took on some AVs. We're taking on some fairly, mundane 54s here. So this was taking an excessive amount of time. And a lot of it's because we had +5s, but also I think in that last mission, you see, in my opinion, that it was because we were not focusing our 100% of team anymore. We kept reducing things down to like 80% or less. And it was just dragging things out a little bit extra, couple minutes here and there, increasing the amount of damage incoming, making me play more buff than control and attacking. So that slowed things down. So at this point, 2 people dropping us our 2 tanks. So for those of you that are saying, oh, the only reason you took so little damage is because you had these tanks. Okay, fine. Then if this is true, then mission 3 here, I should get creamed or my number should dramatically change because we no longer have our 2 beefcakes. All we have is 3 teammates total. There's me still, our Dami, and our Blaster. And both our Blaster and Dami are not level 50. They're both 49 SK to me. So they're going to be facing +5, and we're going to be going against Council. But if you take a look at the stats on this one, which I'm not going to spoil it, but you can see right here, 13 minutes, so it was relatively short compared to the others. And I think you've already seen this. I think we have 1 death. So, and we'll see what happens. Even that one was avoidable, but just the way we played it at that moment. So let's see what happens with, oh my gosh, we're out of tanks and our team is doomed. So we decide, you know what, I'm trying to get somebody. Nobody's going to join us. We're sitting around for like 10 minutes. I'm like, screw it. Let's just get in there. We'll run with 3. This is not the size team I wanted to run, but hey, it is what it is at this point. So I go ahead and just fire this thing up. Back that up again. All right, so we start moving in. Senju's already in there. Can kind of playing the way they were before, which I'm okay at this point with Senju sort of taking an alpha point lead because it's easier for me then to focus forward and see what's in front of me. And I can have someone I kind of focus on. You'll notice Nate starts taking some big hits. Give him some absorb. Get the barrier out there. Get the healing going.
I got you.
Okay, so here's where you can say the tanks were making a difference. If we back this up again, so we start the fight. Nothing's there. Senju's already in and ahead of me. You can see activating powers, throwing controls out there, and throwing attacks. Senju's already alpha'd. I don't know. That wasn't a smart play, I don't think. Just because if you look what happened. Now, here's one thing about mind control. Mind control doesn't have any lockdown powers where you keep things positioned like immobilized or whatever. It has a hold. But fear, sleep, confusion, the mobs can still move and run. So when you come around the corner, you'll see Senju has already been activating attacks. And one of the attacks is their sleet. But you'll notice it's not holding anybody in place. All the crap is running right through it and coming after Senju. So I'm like, okay, let me get defenses going because I just entered, right? So I'm like, let me activate my stuff. Nate takes massive damage in a second. Right there, it takes a hit, takes another big hit. And at this point, I'm like, oh, they're dead. Now, if we had our tanks with us, here's where you could make this argument. And I would agree. If our tanks were here, that would not have happened to Nate, right? Our tank one and tank two would have been right here absorbing these alpha hits. I'm not sure why why he was up there in melee. The whole time, if you notice, Nate was playing for the most part behind me, blasting, right? Was throwing crap over my shoulder, which was great. But then all of a sudden they go in there. I don't know if because they couldn't see what was around the corner. So Nate, if you're watching, let me know what took you up there because you just started taking a freaking ever loving beating. And this is after I had just clicked my stuff. So I'm in the middle of what am I doing? Buff mode. Why am I doing it? Because we've already engaged an enemy and I'm having to play catch up to what is happening. This is what I don't like doing as a controller. So again, kind of getting in here. I just entered the mission. Here I am at the door. In comes Nate.
All right, F it.
Nate and I are coming. Senju's already around the corner attacking. I'm not sure why. We're not even there. I haven't buffed anybody. All right, boom. Pause. So check it out. Here's what's going on. We've got our overeager Dami, who's been playing excellently. I'm not going to say otherwise. Senju's has a really good build as well. But Damis get this way. You guys get a little bit loopy, a little bit crazy. I've done it myself. They've already dropped their icy rain here. You can see the patches right here. But anybody who's fought against werewolves know they don't care about slows and patches, right? They're taking off and they're already coming around the corner. So Senju's broken line of sight to bring them in. Now, if you're going to do that, you drop your patch right here. Okay, like throw something to aggro them and bring them and then drop it. So I don't know if what happened was came around, maybe did the sleep, then drop the patch, figuring, oh, I got them into one small area, and then all of a sudden the werewolves take off, and you're like, oh crap, they don't have, they can't, they're like immune to slow. So at this point, I haven't clicked a damn thing, right? I'm like, I come around the corner, half of their endurance is gone. They've already launched attacks, and it's been ineffective. Things are now aggroed and coming around the corner. So I'm like, all right, I need to put up my rune of protection to give myself mez protection because we don't have tanks anymore covering us, and I don't. None of these guys can give you mez protection. So I throw on my mez because I can't afford to get slept or stunned, especially against those vampires, which that's like their first action every time is like mesmerize or something. And I haven't clicked any of my main buffs in my tray. Right, I've got Wild Growth and Bastion and Overgrowth are all sitting here unclicked. I don't have my Spirit Ward on anybody. I haven't put down my Life Giving Spores. I don't have my Toggle debuff. I've done nothing at this point other than come around a corner, go, oh crap, Mez Protection. Right? So I buffing myself. All right, let's continue. Here comes the wolves. One, two, three of them. Okay, now I start clicking my stuff. Nate's like, hey, I got wakes in my email. So let me see. I start getting the team buffs now going. So I'm throwing out my 500 absorb. So you see these guys taking that absorb. That's what you're seeing here in the team window. So I click my, that's wild growth. Boom. I'm about to click the offensive overgrowth because I know these guys are having some harder time hitting, given they're taking on +5. But we've already got multiple, like 4 wolves all coming around the corner, and God knows what else has been aggroed back here at this point. So whatever control that Senju had originally used, and then their debuffy rain here has been ineffective. Around the corner comes the bad guys. You see Nate gearing up to take them out. I'm trying to buff people so that we can take these hits right now. And then Nate going in for a nuke. It looks like that's what it was. All right, Nate, let's follow you again. Okay, probably doing an aim build up combo, going in. Boom. Okay, so big nuke. But even with the big nuke, it was, look at these, sad numbers like minus 120, minus 170, because he's taking on plus fives. That's like a tickle. And then in response, they give him a tickle. Here comes Nate, knocked back, knocked down. Boom. That gets aggro on him. Pow, he gets hit once. Pow gets hit twice. Two massive hits in a row for that nuke. And I'm pretty sure the stuff that was hitting him was the stuff that we can't see from around the backside. There's more guys coming in because we're only seeing like 4 or 5 guys right here. There's easily another 5 guys around the corner. So he's getting pelted. I can't see them. I can't control them. Senju can't control them. They were over here. Now they're rotating over here to try to get a better angle of attack on stuff. But now it's a jailbreak, right? Like, what else can we do at this point? I'm trying to find out, hey, what buffs or patches can I put down? And at this point, I got a blaster on Death's Door right here. So I have to go into complete like buff support help mode. All right, let's back that up. So what do we do? Nate's in trouble. That was the spray heal. I clicked the regen. Barriers up.
Hold on there, pal. I got you. I got you.
Put down the buff patch. Drop my own nuke. Nate's able to get out of there. Okay, summon my other pets. Now, all this stuff, mind you, right? Here's my other complaint about this. The way we played that is I could have done all that support buffing 5 seconds earlier, 10 seconds earlier as we were coming in the door, right? Senju, hang tight. Here comes, because Nate wasn't on the map yet, so Senju, hang out by the door. Nate comes in. I click, 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 let's go. Boom, easy enough. Instead, we turn it into a near-death experience. No reason for that. Didn't have to happen. Yeah, Senju's definitely overconfident.
All right, we got this. We got this.
All right, so now we got things under control. People are settling down a little bit. Because we got enough firepower between the three of us. I'm not worried about not having a tank. All right, so look. Now let me alpha. I'll put the patch out. Now feel free to go in there and kick ass. I don't care. Sleep, good. Let me throw the debuff. Don't worry about this, Senju. You'll be fine. Spray and pray. Get some stuff in there. I mean, we're going to take damage on this one because there's only 3 of us. Senju. I don't know if that was level 50 or not.
Take them all down, guys. Take them all down.
Remember when these werewolves transform like this, they get like E beat levels of damage resistance and health. So it takes even longer to take them out. All right, so that second group was much smoother. We played it smarter. Okay, I'm going to buff up. The preemptive sleep is nice. It looks like my freaking wolf is attacking from a mile away, which was something I was concerned about with the build video. Okay, boom. We got the knockback kaboom. I'm going to throw my buff patch out here. start aggroing Shadow Field with. All right, so my combo I did there is I'm seeing. At this point, I'm concerned that these guys are going to aggro any second, right? Because we're fighting right here. They're kind of watching us. So what I do is to throw out the debuff toggle on this group here that seems most dangerous. There's a guy with a rocket and stuff. Looks like that boss right there. So I throw the toggle on these a-holes to debuff. That's minus to hit, minus damage, I think. All right, so that's on them. And then there's also this group over here. So the other thing I'm going to do is activate my shadow field here to throw a control in the middle, trying to preemptively take out these two groups with powerful debuff and an AoE hold while we're finishing up what's left back here, because at any time they're going to start firing away. All right, so here we go. With what I've just done, you can see the effectiveness. I've got this guy's held. This guy's held. This guy back here is another one. Looks like he's held. This guy, I'm not sure if he had the animation going already. He's held. These two guys look like they're attacking, but they're all debuff. So between the debuff and hold, I maybe have like one guy that is unaffected and able to attack. Everybody else is pretty much effed at this point, controlled. And don't forget the Shadow Field has a minus to hit on top of everything else I'm throwing out there. So really these 6 or 7 guys or whatever are kind of neutered at this point. I'm not really worried about what they're doing. The other thing you'll see that I do is because I know I'm going to draw aggro, so I move forward so that any boom booms are going to explode around me and not in the middle of all my teammates. So I just slide forward. I got my entangling aura if anybody gets close. Boom, hit them again. So my fear I laid on these guys over here to the left because I want to make sure they're really debuffed. Yeah, he's controlled the hell and back. Yeah, fear on these guys. Move forward. I got the entangling aura on everybody at this point. I mean, nobody's spared. I can hear Mesmerize firing off behind me.
Okay, but would be better mobile.
I mean, I could tank with this character, just with the toggles and the patch. As long as I have some mess protection, I'm good. If you wanted to even make a tankier build, I would have gone with fight pool instead of sorcery. Take tough, take weave maybe, get some more damage resistance to the build. All right, so we're gonna finish off this boss. I'm not gonna keep moving ahead until I got him done. And Senju, where'd you go?
Senju's already going off. Look at this crap.
Look at this Senju. You didn't learn your lesson. All right, so he's doing a control of or combo. Oh, that was an interesting combo. Okay, I'll give you credit here. Check this out. So Senju's taking off already. Again, dangerous.
He's already going off. Look at this.
But I like this combo that Senju. Good job. I like this. So it's a combo of mass confusion with I don't know if that's sleet or whatever you're using here. So we got the sleet AoE or ice storm AoE, or maybe it's sleet and ice storm, and mass confusion. So they're clustering, they're beating on each other. That's a great combo. I like it. I don't know what the recharge you have on those powers, but if you could have that like every freaking spawn, that'd be killer.
Crap.
But again, Nate's dangerous, man. Nate's going, okay, bam, that is super dangerous. This hallway, and I think Senju's playing it right by kind of hanging back here.
Senju's already going off. Look at this crap.
Boom. All right, so we got this hallway. This is another one of these common noob trap type of things. There's a big long hallway here. And you got, again, and the game does this all the time. You got the guys you can see that are in your line of sight that are like, oh, get them. Group one. But there's like a second group, always, just about anyway, real close, real tight. tight together. So it's almost as if it's one huge group. And depending on the map, there may be a side group over here as well, a little side tunnel. I don't think this one has anything. There's a door at the end or something like that. And there's usually some strays, something like that. So there's one, two, there's two, three groups in here easily. So usually what happens is this: people, even if they do what Senju's doing, they drop around the corner. But as soon as you get in with these guys can aggro. Or if what you drop around the corner hits a couple of these guys, now you've got two groups to deal with. So Senju, I think, is recognizing that, kind of hanging back, dropping, letting the magic happen. I'm trying to play wide here and just get an idea of what are we looking at, so I can see what I need to do. Do I follow Senju's lead? Maybe throw a toggle and toggle debuff, bring him back. Drop the patch right here. Right? Do we set up a kill box? Now check out what Nate's doing. Nate's like, F this. Nate, dude, you're like taking your life into your hands right here. Nate's like, F it. He's going Leroy. Maybe regretting his life's choices right here. Because look exactly what happened, what I was suspecting would happen. Group two standing by. They see this and they're like, what the hell? What is this blaster doing? Blaster meat. You can see immediately they're already looking. And they want to go murder Nate. And so, like a good support character, I'm coming in behind him going, all right, let me see if I can back you up here. Feeling confident with my entangling aura is going to keep me safe close by. Plus, I know Senju's throwing some controls. And so I just turn my focus towards the group down the hall here. And I'm like, I need to put the stop, the kibosh on whatever it is they're planning over here. And they're spread out. There's some guys over here, a little stray there. There's a couple stragglers in the back. Most of them are right here, though. So I don't like a big spread out group like this. It's hard to get control on. So let's see what we end up doing here.
Oh, this is bad.
Start buff. More buff. Patches out.
Hold on. We got this. We got it.
Dami dropping. There goes Umber Beast has got smoked. I'm setting it up. Set it up, guys. Set it up. Get it all set up. It's all okay. Throwing lots of control out there. Got this. Just fearless. Stand out there. I don't care. Let's do it. Start whittling them down. Work my way up the aisle here. Overshot of that one. Didn't want to do that. Again, my range on that's crazy. Let's move up closer. Nuke. Boom. Takes out a bunch more. Knockdown. Fear. Didn't need my AoE. Didn't need my big AoE hold. So boom, that was it. We just kind of chop, 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 like taking a tree down. Didn't need to go like all the way in there. All right. But I think this might have overconfidented our teammates because we've been wading through these guys, even though they're +4, +5, whatever. We're getting through this group, no problem. Here again is your classic warehouse room, right? We've got our entrance ways here, right? And I've said this in the previous videos. There's usually a group right over here somewhere, maybe one deep. And sometimes there's one on the right. There's one on the right this time. And there's usually one or two groups sitting here. So typically you're looking at 4 groups, something like that, in this general vicinity. So we're coming up here, and these guys have their attention turned this way. So there's already, we can see, hey, there's a group over here to the right. Now we've got our blaster and our Dami that are, fighting above their weight class or whatever the saying is at this point. Doing pretty good, right? I feel like, hey, I'm doing some good support. Nobody's dying, even though we're taking some more risks and getting away with it. I think you know what's coming. Like Nate does a classic blaster move. All right, we don't have anything really controlled yet, or buffed or debuffed. Okay, so take a look at my tray up here, my icons. I have a single buff still on me from earlier, and I think I'm at barrier still. Yeah, so we have barrier up, and my Wild Growth, I think it is. Wild Bastion, I forget which one. I think it's Wild Growth. So I got two things, but I don't have anything else up, right? Senju is wearing my Absorb toggle. So you can see that. And then Senju is, looks like they're doing a sleep. I think that's the sleep animation. So Mass Hypnosis is what they're throwing out here. That's just a temporary, quick, stop, take a breath, let's see what we got in front of us type of control. Okay, so here, the only control we have is sleep, right? And notice what I'm doing. I'm staying tight because I need to camera around the corner and see what's missing out of sight. We've got these guys here are the only ones slept. It's about 5 guys. There's a couple more back here I can see. And then there's this chat bubble coming around the corner from the boss. And so I want to take a quick peek to see what the hell else is around here so that, hey, do I control this? Do I put a patch? I mean, maybe I toggle pull and pull them around here? Maybe use line of sight corner pull? I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out. And then you hear the aim build up combo behind me. Boom, boom. And then it's on. I think he's doing single target confuse, is what I just heard. So while we have a group that's slept, Nate unloads. Boom. Maybe there's a fear going on here. It's hard to say. And then whatever control there was is now broken. I'm gonna throw my that's my hold. So that was my shadow field. That's all these that's the lockdown proc firing. So I've thrown this in here to get that lockdown because I want to get eyeballs on this guy first. And so I'm just throwing something over there to the side to get that managed while I can get this crap figured out. All right, so I'm gonna throw the toggle on him, debuff. My pet's taking his beating. Nate's already almost dead. So what the hell hit him? So remember what he did. He just unleashed. I don't know if it was the bosses I'm throwing the toggles on. This guy. Yeah, he's taking massive damage. Look at this. Yeah, I think it's that boss in the corner just blasted him.
Dude, what are you doing there, pup?
My puppy's getting smoked. He's dead. There's a ton of damage coming in. Now, Senju's doing a great job getting this other stuff controlled back here as I'm trying to get this to be our support cluster. Now, here's where Nate makes a mistake. Nate, what you coulda, shoulda, woulda done is you're taking heavy damage and you do the old blaster shuffle and you take off this way, which, yeah, break line of sight or whatever. But the problem is we've lost all containment at this point, and these guys got rockets, and so they're going to hit you unless you completely get away. Your better move, in hindsight, of course, is move right up here, get in the patch where you're going to get heals and endurance, and because you're in front of me now, I'd be able to spray and pray and get the rebirth heal on you or regrowth heal on you. Boom, you got behind me. I couldn't see you. I didn't know where you were, how you were taking damage, what was going on. And then by the time I pivot to look, that then breaks my line of sight and everything behind me, and stuff starts getting out of my containment. So that's the problem with these forward facing kind of buff sets or control type of situations is you can only really target in one direction. So he's taking a beating, and then that's it. He's down.
Dude, what are you doing there, pup? That's not good.
Right there, that guy just walked right by and murdered him.
Oh, dude, you just got wrecked. Dude, what are you doing there, pup?
Okay, yeah, the vampire goes right past me. Right there, he breaks containment, and boom, he's dead.
Oh, dude, you just got. Dude, what are you doing there, pup? That's not.
Right there, that guy. I think it's a boss. So this guy right here goes and finishes our blaster. Right, because Nate had caught so much aggro. We don't have a tank anymore, so tanks can't taunt and keep stuff contained. It's funny because Nate's like, "Oh, close call," because he almost died and managed to. Was I don't know if that was my absorb you got or something you did. Like you might have gotten a. I don't know if you have the preventative medicine proc, maybe, because I don't think I was able to do anything. I'm gonna trying to control this crap that's going on, and at the same time Nate's getting beat down, so is my Umbra Beast. So that's what's catching my eye. Right there, my Umbra Beast is ready to take a beating. I'm going, oh crap. Plus, my my focus over here. Again, this is the issue. I pointed this out before, right? I've got this going on right here, my main focus. I see my pets taking damage. At the same time, I also had this group over here that I was trying to focus on, which has me, focusing on these toggles down here, right? And then we see Senju is backed off behind me. I can't see Nate at all who's behind me. So then I got to look over here if I want to keep an eye on any of these guys. So as you're playing these buff sets or control sets, right? I'm looking at my powers, what I want to do to control these guys. Looking at my toggles or buffs, what do I want to do to control over here? Oh man, my dog is taking damage. What can I use to support it? Right? You're constantly looking left, right, and center, and then people behind you are taking a bunch of damage. There's this rocket fire from the corners taking Nate.
Dude, what are you doing there, pup?
I still can't see. He must have preventative medicine or something. Because I'm just throwing debuff and controls in front of me.
Doing there, pup?
I'm throwing a heal because I don't even know where Nate is. And boom, he's dead. Yep, that's it. Now we got the boss guy behind us. Yeah, that was the boss. Just crushed him. Crushed you, Nate. Sorry. I couldn't see you. You're behind me. And here's the issue. Check this out. I'm like, well, first of all, I gotta finish swallowing before I talk. But see, look, I put this patch out for the pets, and I thought Dami and people were going to be up in here, but everybody retreated away from my main support. All right, so this is one of those ones you got to listen to the hobbits. They're closer to danger, further from harm, or whatever the hell the saying was. I think go up here and stand in this patch because then I'm able to support in front of me like this. I know that's maybe it seems dangerous. This actually would have been the safest place to be was right here. Plus I have the toggle debuff here. So these guys are all debuffed. I've got my plus hit points endurance stuff is popping right here. And I can throw the heals out. So this is the best place to be. The worst place for me to support or for you to have safety is back here. Out of sight, out of mind, I can't help you. You're out, you're done. Boom. So hey, if you need support from a defender controller, probably best to stay in front of them or right next to them, not way behind or out of their line of sight. I can't do anything. That's our first death of 3 missions, which I thought was fan freaking tastic. Especially again, we're taking on really high level stuff right now. At least they are.
Ah, Chad, he's got that
Yeah,
unaffected crap.
I think the residue's unaffected, so I couldn't do anything at that point. Just focusing on damaging these guys and taking them down. Because I feel with this build, I can keep things locked in place for a while without much risk to me. Great, another res. All right, so the rest of this is just us, I think, finishing cleaning up. I don't think there's anything super exciting here. All right, go around to the next group. Take this group down. Let me go under here. Mass Confusion leads the way, which is always nice. They're beating on each other. Mass Confusion, of course, is a great tool,
Like that.
damage mitigation, and it helps to lower the enemy hit points because they're damaging each other. So it speeds things up. Less incoming, more outgoing. Boom, they're smoked. Last group is, I think, up top here. We take them out. Not much fuss either. I do think after what just happened with Nate is we get just overall smarter. You know, hey, let me get the buffs out there. Let me get the patches out there. Let's take our time. Let's get in here and finish them. Boom. Yeah. So I think if we just had played that way from the get-go instead of getting too cowboy, would have been not a problem, not an issue. All right, that is Senju hit level 50, so congrats, Senju. I know I was being critical of you, but it was out of love, my friend. Just trying to make some educational points to not just you, but anybody who's watching. And I'm no expert, but when I'm looking at these videos in hindsight, it's kind of I see some things going, man, if we had just done this or done that, would have been perfect. Anyway, thumbs up for you and Nate. That is then the end of the first session here. And then there's a whole nother part to this video that I need to review. So give me 1 second to pull that one up. All right, but before we go ahead and tackle that next video, let's just kind of take a look at this first part because this, I have the summary here of what all happened. I think it's be good to kind of see the side by side because it's the first time I've really had sort of two different teams completely. Although that first time I think I ran with Emperor Avenger was kind of a different team, but this was like truly 100% complete different team. So in the first session there, the first mission, we had three of them. Team of five, team of five, team of three. 12 minutes, 18 minutes, 13 minutes. So what's that? 43 minutes or something like that total. That's kind of getting on the longish end. Like these lengths, like 18, those would have been like the longest missions I would have had with my defenders. But the fact that I was clocking in at like an average of 15 minutes or something like that, that's done. This is overall slower so far. But again, I'm not directly comparing time, but it is going to be a factor in the overall numbers because even though my numbers were looking pretty large with this controller versus the dominator, whatever, not dominator versus the defender, the fact that it was taking longer, the rates were much more even, I think, than what the raw data is showing. And then the other thing it's going to help us do is take a look at the next set of missions where we were here for 7 minutes, 6 minutes, so faster for sure, about half the time. The team was higher level. We ended up with 3 teammates, a team of 4. Everybody, I believe, I think we had 150. Everybody else was 50 plus ones. 3 incarnated people. Even though the incarnates were like, uber incarnated, nobody that I saw was using their incarnates beyond the alphas aside from me. So I think this is a fair comparison in that sense that we've got a group of people that are trying to, not overpower stuff. And now it's not necessarily a fair comparison directly between, the first half and the second half, but an overall comparison compared to some of my other teams I've been running, I've had at least a couple of incarnates in every squad. I didn't have any in the first 3. Now I've got, the whole team's pretty much incarnated with the second one. So as a whole, I think this is a good collection. It's not an unfair comparison. It also gives a great chance for us to kind of see the effect of, let's say, incarnates before and after, right? We're looking at a team here. You're expecting we should have the worst stats with these first 3 missions, and we should have the best stats here with these last 3 because we have a better team with higher level stuff. So that's the question. Hey, is that true or not? Is it much better? Now, of course, it seems so far. Hey, it's faster. 25 minutes. This is about average what I've been doing. So I wouldn't say that, wow, we lit it up on the mayhem. That's about what I've been getting for everybody in the mid 20s or so. Overall, 81 minutes. Already said that. If you go ahead and take a look at the defeats, survivability, again, I don't think I died a single time. This is the first time that I batted 1,000 on this one, right? I pitched a shutout. I did not get defeated at all. And I don't think I was playing timidly at all. And in the first three missions, it might be, hey, you had a Dami and two tanks that were covering your A. That's why you survived. Maybe. I don't know. But we'll take a look at the second team where I don't have that. And does it make a difference? No, I didn't die at all. It did get a little bit faster though. So, interesting. But the team size was only 4. So it wasn't like we were steamrolling with a team of 8 here either. All right, then we go ahead and take a look at the risk. You'll see that only one death in that entire set of 3 missions, and the only time we had one was when we had our smallest team size. And I think we pointed out what happened there. I think it was just a mistake when Nate jumped in with before we could get the buffs and the controls locking things down. If we don't do that, no problem at all. Then 4, 5, and 6, Mayhem, no deaths, no deaths. You'll see here is when we have our first casualty, mass casualty event 3. Mayhems have been the roughest for all of the tests so far. This is the fewest we've had is 3. Upwards of what was like 10 or something like that in that one Mayhem. I think with Emperor Avenger, we had the whole team wipe going. So this is, I think, Mayhems are more a test of experience. People have done Mayhems before, know what to expect, and know what to do, not to do. It's not necessarily a build thing. Obviously, it helps, and it's also a unique mission because it's the first time you're indoor, outdoor. The outdoor stuff is a bigger challenge because there's no walls and crates and stuff that are going to keep the enemies all confined. Things can move all over the place. They come at you from different directions, so it makes it a much more big challenge. So overall, though, I mean, only 4 total deaths. That's crazy. My next closest, I think, was Screaming Tree. And Screaming Tree had, let me pull up Screaming Tree's numbers real quick. Again, I'm not going to do total bunch of comparisons. Screaming Tree had 7, right? So 7 was the next lowest. So this is 4. Maybe there was another one in here. We'll watch the video and see if I missed one, but I only saw 4 when I kind of did a quick, scroll through the video itself just to look for them. So overall, the numbers are kind of arguing that, hey, maybe it was a little bit more dangerous with this group of 4 all incarnates because we had multiple deaths at one point. Although maybe it was faster, maybe we were a little bit looser because we were steamrolling stuff. And then also you get to the mayhem and you get punched in the mouth. I don't know. And then the defeats I was throwing out. Lots. That second mission was the biggest one. Even if you subtracted out those 45, shards and rebels and swarms, still 80 something. So definitely killing a lot more here. And here's the other weird thing is even though here's my mission where you'd expect I'd have the most foes defeated because I only had 2 teammates. Who else was doing the defeating? It had to be me. I didn't have a whole ton of them, right? So that's what's interesting. And then here, when I'm with these other incarnates, I had some of my lowest numbers. So maybe they are just outshining this character and whatever. Maybe out offensing them. But I don't think the team was super offensive here, as you'll see in a second. So anyway, those are just some of the stats to take a look at as you're watching this video or watch out for. So hey, what do we got on this team? Let's go ahead and take a look here. We're dealing with my controller, of course. And then we've got Krazik, who is one of our Bow Wows, best of the worst. Not the same Bow Wow as last missions. And then Whiskey Beatdown and Electra Jewel. These guys were both 50 plus 1. I think Krazik was only 50, or was 50 plus 1, but was barely, I think they were still unlocking their stuff, though, if I'm not mistaken. So these guys were incarnated. They were, vet level, whatever. But they're only using their alpha stuff. So that was the difference in team. There's no, we don't have any tanks here, right? I swapped my 2 tanks for a scrapper and a brute. So I guess, about the same in that sense. And then I have a blaster versus Nate. This blaster obviously had more power because they were higher level. But I have no Dom here supporting me with, locking stuff down and making things even safer. So, kind of take the 2 teams side by side, look at the strengths and weaknesses of both. First team probably had more mitigation, or at least for me, because I had a Dominator helping hold things down. I had 2 tanks taking aggro off me, so you'd expect that would have been my safest, missions ever. This team, more probably overall output of damage because we've got a higher level blaster, more capability than Nate had. And then we got our other two characters that are, 51 or so. Brutes are generally going to out damage your tanks. Scrappers should out damage a tank. So we have more bursty damage, more overall, DPS over here. So let's see how it actually plays out and what all happens. First couple missions are pretty short and sweet. Okay. So the first one is I've run this mission a couple times before. I like this as a nice test. This is the one that killed I think my one of my characters. Was it Emperor Avenger or Screaming Tree? One of those two. I ran this and died like a couple times. I think it was Emperor. But this is the old school bank mission with Arachnos that you have to rob the vault and fend off the ambushers. Electra draws aggro immediately. They're wanting to know if they can use any of their incarnate stuff. I'm like, nope. I got it all.
Trying to get them to not be all incarnate cray, you know.
So we got this.
Probably gonna bring a bunch of dudes. Yep.
My range of those things is sick. I'm not even sure where Whiskey is at this point. I don't think I've seen him yet. I don't know if they went the other direction. Oh, there they are. I think they just got on the map.
50. Brazic is one of the Bow Wows. They're level 50, but not incarnate at all. And then my other two players here are Pugs. I don't know them. And they're running at 51.
All right, so our brute just got into the fight. They were, I think, at the door AFK. So really just three of us were taking out that first group.
Tight little quarters here.
Now, there's not a ton of foes on this map, so I'm not be surprised if my foe defeat numbers are low, but it's a tricky map because it's tight little confines, and then you got those ambushers show up in numbers.
Right side, it's harder to find teams to get together. So I think what I'm doing my next pairings is run over on blue side. Big problem I have with blue side is that the safeguard mission is a joke compared to mayhem.
Yeah, so my goal here was to get a team of 5 again, but just couldn't get the extra body. And here's the thing: once you got sort of pugs on your team, out of respect to them because they're volunteering, they don't know anything that's going on, right? I'll just if I get a team of 4 together, I can't get the 5. I gotta start because hey, these guys are waiting around, right? I'm not gonna be, hey, keep waiting while I get that 5th body. You're trying to get people to join your team, but I'm have to be selective, right? Hey, you can't be a buffer. Hey, I don't want a whole bunch of incarnates. Blah blah blah. You're trying to be very selective without being an a-hole to people as you're posting things. So I don't need to post a message LFG, but if you don't tick these boxes, don't bother. So I have to kind of be a little bit of a dick sometimes when or kind of, I don't know, I hate to say lie. I'm like, hey, guy, somebody, oh, yeah, I'm full already. Like if some defender responds, oh, sorry, full. I'm doing it on purpose, yes, but I'm not doing it to be cruel. I don't need you, defender. No offense, but I need beefcakes. I need blasters. So anyway, it takes a little while to get the team going. So I'm ruminating here, maybe running on blue side which obviously would be easier because you've got a higher population over there. So I'm not stupid about that. I mean, really, the biggest problem with running on blue side is safeguards. Because as you see in my testing right now, this mayhem mission has become like the mission that is the toughest one. It's the longest, the most complicated. You're often going to get an AV or hero. But when you run the safeguard missions, it's a freaking joke. And again, it's the red side, blue side thing. Devs hate villains or something. But Mayhems, you got to build time, you're on a clock. It's, if you could just rush the bank. It's, it does work. But with heroes, there's not even a timer when you enter the safeguard. You just rush to the bank and then lollygag around and then defeat the guy in 3 seconds. There's nothing to have to beat up on the way in there. It's a joke. And so, how many times you guys run safeguards out there and you're like done in 60 seconds? That's how fast it is. So, I don't want to run, especially with pugs, because as soon as you get pugs, you know what's going to happen. Somebody's going to charge right to the bank, trigger the timer, and then it's game on and then everybody's, effed. I've done safeguards before where it's fun and you do the side missions stuff. I'm not as confident in it, just, I don't know it as well as Mayhem's, but I just know there's too many dopey people out there that just run right to the bank and and ruin it. So I don't want to have to run a set of missions and get to my fifth one and hey, I'm almost done. And then somebody does that. Then what do I do with that data, the safeguard? Hey, the 60-second safeguard mission. Hey, let's compare that to my 25-minute mayhems, right? No. So now if it's, some bow wow people and they know what's going on, then maybe I would do it. So that's my big issue with Blue Side is, hey, safeguard missions are so stupid and easy. Now, if people will do these side missions, then yes, I'm all for it because I like to run the side missions. That's where you get the real cool action of the fun. So I'll try to give it a go on Blue Side, see what happens, but I'm afraid I might ruin it, or it might be ruined for me. So, plus I've also mentioned this in the original setup. The people that play Red Side more typically are just more experienced, more I don't want to say serious, but whatever. They're just better teammates. I'm just going to say that, straight up because Blue Side, there's just too many newbie people, too many. And again, hey, sorry if you love Blue Side. Blue Side's great, right? But it just attracts a different type of player that is just running guns, smash and grab. They don't care. Click, click, click. I got 30 seconds to play. I'm done. Red Side seems more to be a bit more casual, a little bit more professional. Get my opinion. Thumbs down the video if you don't like what I'm saying, or thumbs up the video if you like. Oh yeah, hell yeah. Anyway, red side, best side, as they say. Plus, the missions are just more fun. Anyway, off the soapbox. Let's finish this up. So in we go. We got our brute and our scrappy doing their thing.
Yeah, I'm trying to get roughly the equal.
No big deal here. Electra's hanging back. I'm able to follow in. I really like having melee archetypes playing nature. I had it with Screaming Tree, and now I'm having it with this second group here, and I had it in that first couple missions.
And then I ran a 3-man operation. Hold on there.
So we get to the vault. Whiskey's taking a little bit of a beat down here. I think he charged like an extra group ahead. Yeah. Let's check this out. So here's how again how people get trouble. So we're beating guys down right here. Now here, check this out. I think I know what Whiskey's doing, but so we've got a big old group of people clustered around us, right? We're here fighting. Look at Whiskey, head up, and he's looking this way. So he's going to go in here and start to. I don't know if one. Here's part of the plan, right? If you're going to do this and you catch aggro with the intention of bringing them back or maybe ducking around, bringing two groups together, I'm all for it. Thumbs up, right? Bring me some more stuff. Two things I don't want you to do. One, I don't want you to taunt from range like this and cause a bunch of bombs to come in and start hitting me. The other one I don't want you to do is just charge into the next group a mile away and forget the hell what's going on back here because we still have enemies back here that could be killing us while you're up there soloing like a god mode. Or worse, you go up there to solo like god mode and can't handle it, and somebody's got to come and bail you out, which 9 times out of 10, I just leave you to hang in the breeze because that's your problem at that point. But often teammates will charge it after you, then that splits the team, and then that slows us down, and then other people start dying, and then it becomes a bigger issue. So let's see what happens as Whiskey goes all in.
First couple were with.
Okay, I just saw. Okay, all right, I'm gonna give him props. Check that out. Did you see what he just did? Whiskey, genius, dude, genius. So here's Whiskey. He was standing right here, and he looked up and said, "Huh, fresh meat." But before he did it, here I can tell a professional. He turns back this way towards us, and I saw him do it Taunt. Beautiful, my man, right? Because that's going to cause these guys to want to follow him. And then what does he do? He proceeds to move in. Beautiful. The only thing I would have liked would have been like a hey, going deep kind of heads up tell, like I'm going in so that we know to follow. Because I didn't see him do it till I just watched this in rewind mode here. 2020, right? Boom. Whiskey's in there by himself. He's starting to take damage. I didn't know he's going up there. Now I follow him in. Okay, now so that's where, again, I can be critical because, one of the things you hear tanks or whatever complain about controllers is, oh, the AoE immobilize is ruining pulls and taunts and stuff. I don't know if I was AoE immobilizing there or not, but I didn't know he was going in there. I didn't know. I saw him going way up there. He's taking a bunch of damage. That was my alert, right? I'm alerted because I'm seeing damage being dealt. I didn't notice him at the time that he'd trucked up there already. So he's gone solo, gone rogue. I didn't know that he had taunted. Had I known he was taunting, had I known he was going to pull, bring the group in, I would have held back on my controls for a second. Because don't forget, I'm also got my aura around me that's holding people in place. So he can taunt all he wants, but if I've got them held, they can't go anywhere. So that would have been, awareness by him. Like, hey, I'm going in, follow. Okay, and then I can maybe shut something off. Or recognizing what we're able to do, say, hey, be right back. He's going to go fetch and bring them back to us and taunt these guys and bring them in and leave the guys that we were fighting behind. Either one would have worked, but he was definitely doing a smart move, trying to taunt and pull and drag with him. I love that. All right, so now I'm going to go in there, back him up.
Know that we're going to have ambush. By the way, me saying I know is also the reason why I didn't want to run the same exact missions every time, like a task force, because then you know what's coming, you know what the maps are looking like.
Yep. Yeah, here's one of the criticisms I've had for this series, especially on the forums, is people, oh, you should run the same thing every time. Run these task forces. So that's the only way to get a true, matchup of the missions and the enemies and get better numbers. And while arguably that's true, right? Yeah, I ran the same stuff, the same foes, the same maps. Perfect. The problem is it's the same stuff, the same foes, the same maps. And as I just told you here, notice what I said. I said, I'm going to summon my pets, my lore, because I know it's coming. Because I know as soon as we go over here and break open this vault door, we're going to spawn ambushes. I think there's 4 of them. And we're going to spawn one right in here. The second one spawns out here. The third one I think spawns out here. The fourth one spawns back here. They like flip flop and they catch you. So like you blow this thing up and immediately you're attacked and then you're like, oh crap, thank God. And then all of a sudden the next one spawns, you start getting blasted from range, so you go charging out here to go stop them. What happens as soon as you do that? The next one spawns behind you and you get the old crunch maneuver. So for those people saying you should just run the same thing, hey, that sounds great. Maybe on a test, experimental design 101, that makes sense. But here's the problem. You're going to then evaluate learned behavior and not actual like function of the sets, right? You're going to see me having known the mission. You're going to see the teammates who have run that mission knowing exactly what's coming. They know where the ambush is going to come from. They know when. They know what glowy to click. They know what room to go into. And it becomes a memorization thing. And so it's like giving somebody the answer key to the test and they know A, B, C, D, A, B, C, D, rather than actually reading the questions and figuring out the answer. So it's a complete skewing of the data because you're actually testing learned behavior and not performance behavior. So that's my counter to those of you guys that are saying that. And you can see me. I don't think I'm going to run this particular mission. I don't think I'm going to run this mission anymore because of that. As I think about it in hindsight, I'm like, yeah, I know this mission too well. I know exactly what's going to happen. But I did do it a couple times just because I wanted to get the direct comparison of, because the first time I ran this, I got killed a couple times in here because myself and the team, I mean, I kind of knew what was happening, but I forgot the exact particulars of it. But every time I've run it since, I haven't died. I know exactly what's coming, and I know where to position myself. And it also helps me to buff and support because I know which of my teammates are going to be in trouble. Like I know, hey, that guy's going deep up here. He's going to go right into the next ambush. I got to follow him. Or I know there's something come behind me, I'll turn around and be ready for it so I can help the blaster behind me.
So far, nobody's like spamming their incarnates beyond me.
And no, I'm not sponsored by Devil's Backbone.
Oh yeah, somebody just clicked it. Now we're in trouble.
Okay, so I know there's stuff in front of us. I know stuff's coming from behind us. So that's why I move up to the middle positions because I don't want stuff spawning right on top of me. Krasik's taking a beating.
Come on, buddy.
That was probably the first time somebody's been in trouble.
Let's see if I can get a fifth person. Preferably somebody lower. You know, I messaged people to try to
Okay.
join, but just too scared, I think.
So again, I know it's coming. I know there's another ambush coming behind us, so I'm not moving too far deep because I know something's going to be coming behind us in a minute. Or like a lot of people at this point, if you don't know what's happening, you'll just charge up this hallway and keep going.
More fair test than the 3-man I ran, so I'll probably do one other mission beyond this.
All right, I'm turning around because I know there's probably another ambush coming. Staying put. Yep, there it is. See, that's on me. Learn behavior right there. You saw me wait. You saw me turn around and watch. I knew Electrolux was about to get hit, so I turned and prepared. Boom, saved. Had I not known, had this been a fresh mission, I might have headed up that hallway, went around a corner. Meanwhile, Electra's dead. So that's why, if I could, I would say, you know what, I'm not running the same missions at all, ever. I kind of feel the same thing almost about the Mayhems. Although I'm sort of using that one as my standard kind of control group, I guess.
Not that one, is it? Badges for crap.
All right, we got next mission is just some Circle of Thorns and a sewer. Nothing crazy about this one. Standard paper mission. I don't think we have any deaths here. I think it only takes us a few minutes. So find the glowy type of thing. But I do want to challenge myself with the circle because they have the debuffs. They've got some controls. They got some decent damage output with their big boss nukes. I'm going to use fly here so I can kind of stay off of the patches.
Of course, my dog's gonna chew a bone behind me.
Not the Umber Beast, but my actual dog. All right, crushed another group.
Pause this real quick. Okay. Catch up to these guys.
All right, so here's a good example, right? I AFK'd for about 10 seconds. And, the team goes ahead of me, which, yeah, that's fine. I didn't tell them I was leaving. And you can see Electra starts taking a big, hits and stuff. I'm not there, I'm not helping, I'm not supporting, I'm not buffing. So I think, again, when you do stuff like this, I didn't do it on purpose, but kind of make me think maybe a future test. Let me just AFK for 30 seconds and see what happens every time. That's a good gauge to find out how much your support matters. So you see Electra's taking a pretty big hit. I think it's the first time she's really taken a big, punching. I wasn't in the room, so now I'm coming around to give her some support. Okay, I think the barrier's on her. The buffs are going again. Heals are out there.
Crunchy munchy. You guys are doing great.
GJ. All right, another group. I'm gonna mash these fools. Big Thunderous Blast coming in. She takes out a bunch of minions with that blast. Left with lieutenants and bosses. There goes lieutenants. There goes the bosses. Done. Yeah, that one was. All right, so the next group comes up. I'm up top, and Electra's down around on the bottom, kind of on an island. So she takes a couple hits because there's a boss there. So I just go over there, kind of just directly buff her, make sure she's good, and bang, she's right back in there, smoking these guys. Done. You see all the green numbers flying over her head.
Zap. Electra's just nuking.
Yeah, she was doing some serious damage. All right, this is the last room, I think.
Overgrowth gives you a discount. Oh, nice.
Yeah, that was like a single shot, one shot of this fool. Check out this ghost to the right.
Overgrowth gives you a discount.
It's like one shot's done. All right, there's our glowy. This was a little bit squirrely for a second because you got all these ghosts with all their stupid debuffs. I'm like, worried about that. Whiskey takes a little bit of a hit. And he's taunting and dragging the rest of the group. The second group. And I'm like, okay, that's not good. Let me get some controls. Get the top. There we go. A lot of it. A lot of incoming damage.
Something's got me debuffed.
All right, boom, boom, boom. That was pretty much the extent of the threat. And boom, done. And then it takes us to the Mayhem as our final mission. We start off with sort of the standard play where I want to blow up some stuff to get some time. And so I'm going over the side here to get the bonus time. But Whiskey goes too far and starts taking on the PPD. That gets them in trouble, and then boom, right there. That's death one. All right, so right there, see what happens, right? This is how you know if your buffing's doing any bit of good, especially against these damn PPD. So I thought I said something on the way in. Koa over the wall. I think outside the mission, I'd say, hey, let's blow some stuff up. So we go in there. I start blowing stuff up. Let's get some of these things. Get some time built up. We don't need to get too far in there. So I'm like, Koa over the wall. Let's go get him. Boom, we just got the PPD van. But you can see what happened in the background. Whiskey has gone and is engaging the PPD that are over there by the cars. I've mentioned this a couple times. Don't bother fighting the PPD on the streets. They're not worth it. They're only going to give you 30 seconds of time. Instead, spend your time blowing up, crates, barrels, boxes, that kind of stuff. That gives you minutes of time, right? You might have to blow up 20 of these things, but it's easy peasy time. These PPD groups might take you 2 minutes to beat one, right? They're going to fly around. They're going to be, buffing, blasting, dangerous stuff. 2 minutes invested for 30 seconds isn't worth it. Meanwhile, I can spend 2 seconds and blow these things up and get bonus time. And that's what you see. We get bonus time for the vans, but then there's a fight starting with PPD. Now, I'm not aware that they started the fight yet until I start seeing that. And then you'll see what happens because at this point, I think both me and Krasik are over the wall trying to trash stuff. Whiskey goes in and starts aggroing PPD, and Electrus gets in there to try to help him, and then she starts taking damage. And in an outdoor map like this, it's hard for me to kind of get, contained buffs and debuffs. Look at all this incoming damage. I try to get her help. She's dead.
No, not again.
And I think Whiskey just bailed right past me. Or that was Krasik. All right. Anyway, somebody just took off right past me. One of the beefcakes. So let me see if I can get her back on her feet. I don't have a res, but at least I can get the buffs ready so when she's up, there she goes. But look, we got crap coming from the other side now, so I think somebody was taking on the stuff by the front gate as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Running out of juice, I think.
Actually, that was Electra running out of juice. I saw her bars. I thought it was mine. All right, so here we are. We're fighting PPD. We haven't gotten any time yet. We've had one death. Was it worth it? Because we still have multiple targets back there to still beat, just even to get the time. Now, Krasik's taking damage. We're still fighting these stupid cops. It was just a waste of time even bothering it. These guys then res themselves.
Yeah, avoid these dang cops.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Just forget them.
Side mission key should be over here.
All right, we finally got 30 seconds for the cops. Right? Meanwhile, we could have trashed half the street's worth of destructible objects.
That's them.
In goes Whiskey. Get the aggro. All right, so we've had one death on the team so far. Blasty's Koa.
Jesus, I can't fight.
Now we're going to go around to the jail.
Critical.
Take care of this. You guys have seen these bank missions before. This one, or not bank, jail missions. This one went a little bit sideways because there was a group in the side that, I don't know, somebody went down there if it was Whiskey's taking a bunch of damage from the side group. So I'm going to try to get in there and help. Give the support, give the buffs. We got guys coming from the left, from in front of us, from the right of us, all different directions. Getting a little bit crazy here in the upper level. Now, you don't need to fight these guys at all. You can just go down to the cell block and free critical mass and get the bonus time. And then on the way out, you'll probably be fighting them. But, we sit there and fight these guys. Then we go downstairs to the cell block. Beat up the guards at the cell block. A longbow's going to come down any second now. All right, now we got 3 minutes. So that 3 minutes was worth, what? 6 batches of PPD on the street.
Nice.
Okay, fight past the longbow. Then we exit. Now here's where I said, now maybe I wasn't clear because I was like, hey, let's go across the street to the knives to get the arson. So out we come. And I try to get a couple more destructibles right. Newsstand, freebie points here. The payphone if I can. Boom. Okay, our friends are coming from out of the jail with critical mass. Everything's looking good. We're heading towards the arson. Taking some damage behind me. What's going on? All right, so look, we've got... Yeah, okay, so check this out. I'm not sure what Electric Jewel was going for. I said, hey, let's go across the street to go find the Koa for the arson. And I don't know if it's her or Whiskey said that they have, I think they have the Vidiot maps or whatever that has it on there. So they went that way for some reason. But the only other group I would have went for right around the corner over behind this side is the ones for the pawn shop where we're going to go next. But we were heading this way for the arson. The ones that are over here for the kidnap, and I hate the kidnap ones because that takes the longest time. It's the most risky, and then you got to escort the guy all the way back to the chopper. So I don't think it's worth it personally. So it looks like they were heading over there, but they took a bunch of freaking damage. Critical mass is behind me. That's who's causing some of the aggro, and I think maybe the ambush caught up to him or something. Something happened back there. So we're all over here fighting in the middle of the street. I'm looking, where the hell's Electra? I'm looking over my shoulder, figuring, oh, she's probably over there with critical mass, but she's way over here. There's nothing I can do.
Where she went? Oh, she's over there. This way, Jewel. This way, Jewel.
So I'm just like, forget about critical mass. He's on his own at this point.
Get her. 'Cause I couldn't get my A worked.
Right, there's a big fight back there now. We're missing our big damager. That's second defeat. Jewel's been defeated twice. That's the ambush, I think, that came. I've got to worry about these guys over here now. I'm kind of on an island. Like Electra's gone to the jail to come back.
Our blaster.
So much freaking damage from those blasts. It's crazy. And then Jewel's down again. I'm not sure if she was doing that. It was the third time now. So she comes out of the jail. I don't even know she's out yet. She's taking heavy damage. I turn around, like, oh, there she is. She's dead already.
Dude, you getting worked.
Maybe she had to run out of the jail because, if you go to the jail, I think that triggers another ambush. So now Jewel's gone down 3 times. One of them was completely solo off to the side. The other 2 were just getting swamped from range by the PPD. But I wasn't able to support her in all 3 of those instances.
What's that one?
Yeah, so I think she went and got the kidnap crew.
Yeah, arson should be this way.
Maybe her map's wrong. I don't know.
Arson group.
All right, now we're back on track, but we just had 3 quick deaths in a row. Were those the fault of this build? I don't think so. That's just decision making by players combined with just bad timing, bad luck.
That one is the kidnap.
All right, we get this. Now it's like, all right, let's go do the arson. Okay, Jules over there. I'm going to go follow. In we go. Here comes the ambushers.
Let's get Jewel hooked up.
Buffing at the door. I like to ambush at the door as they're coming in. Once we get this ambush cleared, then it's fine to go ahead and click. This time around, wasn't the first one to step out. So last time I did this with Screaming Tree, I stepped out and got freaking ganked. So I let Whiskey go first. And sure enough, there's another kind of group sort of stacking up out here. But we come out, take them down. Now I want to go and get the pawn shop. Bunch of resers. So I can't stand fighting these PPD. They got resing like the stupid council. And somebody's taking a biolik right there in the middle of the street. All right, so we come around the corner to the Electric Jewel went AFK. So we go around the corner to get these Koa.
Being my worst nightmare by jacking around out there. I don't need you aggroing crap. Did we get the key? Yeah, we did. Nice.
All right, we got the key. Blow up a few more things on the way to the pawn shop. Try to get some more free time. Like that. A minute for blowing up garbage cans. I mean, can't beat it. A minute and a half for just blowing up some barrels. Okay, call the crew in there. Now this one we seem a little bit unsure. I think I told go trigger everything, so Electra goes and starts triggering. And then Krasik's in here with me, but I think Whiskey's still out on the street. Whiskey's out on the street. Then Whiskey comes in. Electra's triggering all the alarms. This is my favorite part. This triggers all the stupid ambushers.
Trip is even here anymore.
Okay, then we can just pile up and gank anybody that walks in. It's like free XP just coming to your door.
Boy.
And those guys made me nervous because they both beefcakes disappeared for a second. I'm like, guys, I can't hold the door by myself. So I'm like, Hodor, get in here. It's the bonus time.
There it is.
Smash and grabs. Do it. Keep beating down the door ambushes.
Shoot. Freaking stun. How long? Come on, come on.
Taking some damage, Krasik. His build is holding tough, though. What's he got? Bio? In comes a bunch of bosses. I'm like, I hope air. And also, Electra shows up with the freaking nukage, which is what we needed. Some DPS here at the door. Paging DPS. DPS to the front door.
Dang it, puking.
Puking again. So right after this, we're going to go to the banks. We've had 3 defeats so far. I don't think anybody else dies here. I don't think anybody dies in the bank either. All right, so out we go. Clear a little trash right there to the bank. All right, into the bank. Let's take this group on. Krasik's taking a beating. I'm taking a beating.
Come on, keep me up, keep me up.
Okay, that was my closest brush with death right there. I think we had 2 groups of longbow here. I think we had an ambush group or something come in.
Terrorized.
Lecture's in trouble. I was in trouble. I've summoned all my frickin' pets again.
Don't be scared, I got it.
So these outdoor maps were not kind to Electra. Very dangerous. Okay, we beat our way down towards the elevator. Get downstairs. Again, some risk, but nothing crazy. We blow up the bank, and then we get our friend Babs on the way. Or blow up the vault, steal the cash. Here comes back alley Drooler, and we just set up the gank squad waiting for him. So at this point, now it's just a matter of prescribing enough damage. I do have some debuff for him, the corrosive enzymes, and I'm holding on to Spore Cloud because that does have, I think, max regen, I think it, or debuff regen.
Brawler wants a beat down.
And minus damage. All right, so Babs should come in with this group.
There he is.
There's big boy. So I throw the toggle on him. Start hitting him with the corrosive enzymes. Electra's leveled again. And just start spamming controls, attacks, debuff free until he doesn't move anymore. He goes unstoppable. Like, you can't stop me. I think he lasts long enough for the PPD to show up.
Nah, we're good. We got enough data here, right?
Keep spamming, keep hitting him.
Killed my beast, dude.
Yeah, he did one big hit. Took out the Umbra. And then boom, down goes Babs. But at this point, we still didn't finish. So I'm like, damn, we missed some longbow somewhere because there's no longbow here. So I'm getting nervous. Like, what, did somebody get lost somewhere? Sometimes it happens when a longbow goes running down the street somewhere. Takes a while to get to the bank. But then there he is in the corner. That finishes the mission. A couple more guys to beat down, and then the rest is history at that point. So, I mean, that was it right there. That was the end of the mission. So we kind of take a look at the rest of the stats. Then I kind of finish up with these thoughts. Is my damage output was like horrific. I'm like 306,000 total freaking damage. Half of that was Fey Wode, but the other half, more than half, was just the pets. The Diviner Essence was half of that. So that lore pet alone, I mean, check out that. That's like disgusting. This lore pet, the Diviner Essence, 73,000 damage. So that's like 25%, I think, of my overall damage came from my lore pet. I mean, come on, guys. And then 64,000. Umber Beast was putting in some work. Look at that freaking number. I mean, compare that to the damage outputs of my main attacks. Void. I mean, obviously incarnates. This is how big of a difference incarnates makes. So if you're not getting your incarnates, you're not getting a bunch of damage, right? Check this out. Void, 58,000. My pet down there was 70 some thousand. So I mean, my incarnates alone, 58 from Void. The hybrid double hit was another 10. The reactive was 4. So there's what, 15, 68, 73,000, and then the other 70, so 146. So almost half of the total damage that this character did came specifically from lore sources. That's how much impact your incarnates have on your builds. This is why people that are these teams of incarnates just running standard 54 content, and it turns into such a joke. It's just disgusting amounts of damage. But aside from that obvious sort of thing, this character itself didn't do a ton of damage, right? I mean, a lot of that came from the lore stuff, or not the lore stuff, but the incarnate stuff. But just look at, the damage here. Dark Blast, 13. Dark Grasp, 15, 16,000. Heart of Darkness was 4. The AoE cone hold there was 7,500. Sands Move, 500. Shadowy Binds, that was not much at all. It's just, a lot of, basic damage, nothing crazy. I mean, come on, there's not a lot here. But then you look at Void, Kablooey. What was her biggest damage was, looks like Umbral Torrent. So Umbral Torrent, the cone AoE knockdown was 17k. The hybrid, I mean, this is pretty decent. 10, 11,000 just out of the hybrid double hit. Reactive, I would have thought it would have done a little bit more, but I don't know if I have which version I took specifically if I have like the most damaging one. I think I have the minus damage resistance, but I built this character to do damage and she can. It's just that most of the damage is coming from the dang pets. That's what's freaking scary about it. So overall damage output was, huge, 306,000. This is the most. My highest defender output so far was the first defender. Amp per Avenger was 275-ish, 276. So this character's, like 30,000 more damage was being put out by this controller. Now, she was the most offensive built character I've shown you so far, so I'm not over shocked by this, but I guess my biggest surprise is just that whole source of damage being those pets being 150,000 of it. That's what's disgusting. And this is where like a defender can't match the controller as far as his damage output would be from your pets. So if you as a controller have a lot of pets, a lot of pet damage sources, and Dark has probably some of the most pets, right? You've got your shades, which was 13, almost 14,000. The Umber Beast is 64. So those two together is 70 some thousand. So a bunch of damage coming from that. Again, if you were to put together something even more damagey, I would say, what about Dark Affinity, where you get the Dark Servant. So yeah, if you had Dark, and maybe Soul, think about that combo. You got the damage from your Umber Beast, your Shades, then you'd have Dark Servant, and then you'd have the Mistress from Soul Mastery, right? Plus these lore pets. So that would give you two more pets you could add to this mix up here. So what would your damage output be then? I mean, probably 200,000? I mean, give me a break. And it really wouldn't sacrifice anything. I could easily swap Soul Mastery for Dark Mastery. I would give up, what is it? The Soul Consumption thing that I was getting, which I don't barely even use anyway, right? And I think you get Soul Tentacles instead of Umbral Torrent. So other than that, it's just about the same thing. So you could easily swap those and not miss, any of this damage, your personal damage. So that might be something to look at. I actually have a dark soul, I think, but I don't think I have um, it slotted per se for damage output. But I think you could definitely jack up a build like that for some output. I already talked about this resilience a bit. I mean, again, the incoming damage was like crazy, the amount of damage I was not taking. And I think a lot of that, I don't think you can just point at, oh yeah, you had tanks, or oh yeah, you had a dominator. Because yeah, I had that in a couple missions, but then I didn't have it in other missions. So I think it's really the safety to me was mainly originating, probably, I'm comparing this to the defender here, because my defender had the nature set as well. Didn't take as much damage as my electrical affinity, but did take about double this amount of damage. So I think the main thing here is that the minus to hit, it's hard to quantify that. Like just, how many times did you hit somebody with your minus to hit and what is the total minus to hit you were stacking? But I think it was a sizable chunk. Because remember, I've got each blast is doing, I forget, like minus 8, 10%, something like that. You're going to be able to stack a ton of minus to hit just by your initial three attacks here. Dark Blast, minus to hit, Dark Grass, minus to hit, Living Shadows, minus to hit. What else? Heart of Darkness, minus to hit. So it's like you got lots of damage coming out that you just can't account for. I'm trying to think, is Shadowy Binds, it's not from the pet? Hold 1 second, let me pause this. Yeah, I just double check. Shadowy Binds is actually, that's not her damage. That's from Umber Beast. So this 10K actually comes down here to the pets. So now we're at 166,000. So even more damage from this controller could be attributed to pets directly. I mean, that's freaking disgusting. The Cloud Senses, that's in Fearsome Stare, which is, a non-damaging power, but I milked another 7,900 out of that. So, you're getting damage. If you threw some more damage procs, a couple here or there, something like that, you could really do a bunch of damage. But anyway, so then the resilience numbers were, like I said, super, super strong. 16K. Please. All right, let's kind of wrap this up then. So putting it all together here, and this is just comparing the two controllers. This is not a side by side of defender versus controller. We're going to do that next now that I have all this data. But what I did want to show you guys is just the two controllers side by side to see, because here's another thing we can do with the data. And I did this with the defender already, is not just look at the two archetypes differences, but within the archetype space, what sets are really strong for a particular archetype. And I think this is kind of goes to my initial um, hypothesis I was sharing at the start of this thing is the concept of debuff or buff plus controls. Which one is the true synergy? And my thinking is that it's the debuff side of things, because debuffing is attacking. You're aggressive. You're outward. Control is aggressive, attacking outward. Buff is usually inward or around, looking for allies. That sort of thing. So I think it splits you from what you're trying to do. And I would say probably the same thing's true with defenders as well. If you're attacking, you're blasting, you're debuffing is in the same direction. I think it's easier to do that. You're going to get more performance, I think, out of debuff sets than out of buff sets. But anyway, looking at these two, which one is the easier buff set to maintain? I think it's nature, because I don't need an ally to hit, right? Electric, I need an ally. Yeah, I have to target somebody to get my buffs to fire off. They're very powerful buffs, don't get me wrong. I still think they're probably the most powerful direct buffing set. If you have like one person you need to buff or two people, Electric Affinity, I think, would probably be superior to nature, because I just keep focusing on that person and just spamming everything through them. But if I have multiple allies, then who do I target? And they're running behind me off to the side, I'm breaking line of sight. It's much harder. Where nature's much more, bursty, patchy, bloomy around you. It's easier to support a team with this one. So definitely, when we take a look at the numbers, you can kind of see that for sure. Nature Affinity wins the survivability, challenge here. It's I didn't die playing nature. How much that was nature, how much that was dark control, that could be the big question. I do think dark control had a huge part of this thing. Don't get me wrong. Then we go ahead and take a look at the survivability index over here. This, just to kind of point this out. So this is rate. Remember, this is whatever stat I'm measuring. In this case, number of times I died per minute. So the time element is rate. Index is per teammate. So this is going to be a little more useful in this comparison, because I had such a flexible team here with the Nature Affinity. But even though I had a very flexible team, right? Look, I mean, what these numbers are showing you is the wider these bars are, the bigger they are, the more spread out the data is. Of course, the scale needs to be taken into effect. But, I had the same number every single time. So very, very narrow, consistent, type of data here. The other thing is that, if there's a certain value assigned per teammate, and that's what we're trying to figure out here, is what effect do teammates have. So if a teammate is worth a certain amount, let's say we'll call that number X, every teammate leads to X amount of damage output, damage taken, or whatever. Therefore, if I'm taking, or I'm doing X and I divide it by the number of teammates, I should get, the answer X, whatever the heck that is. If I double my teammates, well, then we'll say this answer is Y to make our letters different. If I double my teammates, well, then this is 2x. 2x, if this is a true statement, if every time there's a teammate, I get the same value, then it doesn't matter how many times I increase the number of teammates up here, right? I'm going to get, or the number of teammates increases down here, I'm going to get the same exact multiple down here. So I'm always going to get the answer Y. So if this is a true statement, then I should have a very narrow spread here of data, right? Because every time I ran a mission, I got roughly the same answer here as I did this index calculation, regardless of number of teammates. Now, if the spread is much wider, then every time I do this math, this division, I'm getting a different answer besides Y. I'm getting 2Y, I'm getting half Y, I'm getting 4Y, whatever. I'm getting a much broader spread. So that's what these graphs help you to see, is that if the wider the spread, the less the number of teammates has to do with anything. You're getting much more variable results. So you're just more, you know, random as far as what's happening on the team. Doesn't matter about team size per se. So that's what you can kind of use that for. So kind of looking at this, it's hard to say because I had, you know, 0 deaths. If I had 1 death, then this number would have, jumped to a fatter bar. But right now it looks pretty, like, hey, I got the same exact result every time. It didn't matter. But it's 0, so it's hard to say that for sure. But anyway, controller risk. Then this is we're looking at the damage that, or how many, sorry, defeats of my allies. How many times were my allies defeated? That's my next one that I want to take a look at. Is how many times does somebody go down? So with the risk here, you can see that again we have some significant differences here. As far as electric versus nature, nature was much safer in this set of missions versus the allies that lost their lives with electrical affinity. I mean, it's a fairly chunky difference too. They're like 8 times more likely to be defeated with electrical affinity. And then the index is kind of lending a little bit of support, saying that, hey, it didn't matter as far as team size went. We were getting roughly the same amount of defeats per teammate down here. So very consistent data on nature's end. Whereas, with electric affinity, we had, one pretty high outline set of data. Remember what these bars are really showing you with these box and whisker plots is this is showing you this is 25% of the data, 25% of the data. This is that interquartile range. So the bulk of the data is what the bar represents, and the X is that midpoint, that average. Okay, that's what you're looking at here. And then the outliers are what you're seeing here, that 25% of the data is, up here. The other 25% is this little smidge here. So we have a big spread up here. We have this one really, I guess, bad mission, but it helps to kind of drag up the data, right? So that's what that's kind of telling us. Hey, if you eliminated that mission, this might have been much tighter and closer to what you saw here. So this helps you to kind of see how one bad mission or whatever can skew your data, throw things off, whether or not that's, that might be reality though. Hey, it's just a less consistent set because it's any little thing can go wrong. Electric affinity could be one of these sets that's so fine tuned that one small push and things go off the rails real fast. Where nature affinity is much more forgiving of a set. That could be what you could see with these indice type of comparisons. All right, lethality. This is where we're taking a look at how many foes you're defeating. This one, again, kind of take it with a grain of salt because, you could be defeating a foe doing 1 damage to it. You could be defeating a foe doing all the damage to it. It just depends on what state they're in. But again, looking at the comparisons, we can see in nature, the combo that had nature in it was a more lethal. It is a significant difference between the two. So far, nature affinity's outperforming the hell out of electrical affinity on these two controllers. Now, I don't have the same exact primary set, but you do have two very powerful, strong control sets, right? Plant control. Everybody loves plant control. Very damagey as well. So maybe you would expect plant to have been done even better. Should have been able to defeat even faster more foes, but not the case. Nature was doing better, so nature may have a better buffing capacity with what is it, overgrowth, or it could be the contribution that you're seeing could be from your interface, because you've got the damage resistance. I don't know. It's curious to see. The difference is that dramatic though, like another almost twice. Then we got the lethality index. It's actually more consistent with electro affinity. So I was defeating roughly the same number of foes per mission, regardless of the mission, where Nature Affinity was much more choppy. And remember that there was a couple missions in here that were definitely, weird outlier type of data. If we go back to the table, you can see them. I've got 2 missions that are very swingy. Mission 2 with the Devouring Earth was 128. And mission 5, that was with the Circle of Thorns in the sewer, was only 14. So this is huge differences between these two, where the other ones are much more consistent, 30, 40, 50, 60, somewhere in there. So I think these are, a couple of weirdo data points, but, they're kind of going both directions. So very swingy on that side of the coin. So it's, again, interesting data to take a look at. What does it mean? I don't know yet, right? We still need more data. Still need to take a look at the 3 remaining pairs, so 6 more tests, plus all the different missions, so 30 more missions. Then we'll take a look at that damage. We already talked about this a couple of times. This is where it's interesting here. So even though I'm like, hey, singing the praises of nature, and look at all the number of foes they defeated, take a look at this stat. This is the damage output. So even though it's like, wow, nature destroyed electrical affinity as far as just foes taken out, but that doesn't really mean anything because the threat rate I think is more important. This is how much actual raw damage I was putting out with pets and with just the controller. And both of them did comparable amounts of damage output. You can see that there's overlap. So you can't distinguish between electrical affinity and nature affinity in these two tests. They're within the margin of error. So you can't say, hey, one was better than the other. So offensively speaking, I can say, with a little bit of confidence here that electrical and nature in combination with either plant or dark is doing about the same amount of damage. Okay, same amount of damage per mission per minute. So even though it looks like, wow, a lot more guys got defeated over here, all this could mean is that, hey, I happen to get the final shot in there. So this, again, the lethality isn't super critical because when did you get the killing blow? Or it could be just that you have a lot more ticks of, constant damage, chipping in so that you happen to get the last tick and knock something down. Sort of that death by 1,000 paper cuts type of concept. So offensively, they're very comparable sets. And I already talked about this one. This is the contributions of pets and the controller themselves. And you can see how much damage those pets are doing. And these numbers are actually going to be even bigger once I move that 10,000 from the shadowy binds. And then the last side-by-side comparison you want to take a look at here is the resilience of the controllers. So here's where I think the big difference is that I think explains most everything. It's this. This controller's taking 562 per minute. This one's taking about 200. So this is, 2.5 times less per minute. That's huge, right? That's a ton. So hey, why would you take so much less damage per minute, right? This thing's plant control. You got seeds and confusion, got carrying creepers, right? Got electrical affinity, throwing out the buffs and Faraday cage, and like there's lots of defense and stuff here. But nature is even better at it. Now, you got a couple options. Is it nature? Nature's that much better than electrical? I think in some regards it is. It's easier to use. I don't know that it has raw damage lowering capability, right? Because we're talking damage resistance at that stage. So it could be the set, but I don't think that's 100% true. Faraday cage was slotted pretty well over here. Although, see, the problem here is Faraday cage is a stationary target. You got to stay within it, where nature has that ability just to click the wild growth or whatever it is and get the damage resistance and go about your business. So it's easier to maintain your damage resistance with nature. So that's one thing. Slotting would be another one. I need to double check and see, hey, what were my overall slot numbers looking like? Did this guy just have superior, damage resistance? I don't know. Maybe I think they both had barrier, if I'm not mistaken, on their build sets. So there's that. Let me pull up their mids real quick and let me double check it. All right, so I got the side by side here. Check this out. So they both do have barriers, so that is not the difference here. But if you take a look at the raw numbers, this is with left side is Fey Wode having activated wild growth. Right side is Ostara having activated Faraday cage. So there's clearly a difference in damage resistance with Fey Wode having superior numbers in energy, smash lethal a little bit, fire cold. So I would say of the big ones, those would be it. Smash lethal, energy, and fire. Those are your bigger things. But, smash lethal defense is much higher here in Ostara's numbers. So, if we take a look at the actual, damage being done here for resilience wise, energy damage was, 600, 6,000 something over there. Smash Lethal 2000, 2000. Yeah, it's hard to say directly if those numbers are obviously the explanation because it depends what foes you're fighting, what damage output they're doing. But, that certainly could contribute to it. But I don't think that's the whole story again because, hey, Smash Lethal should be much better than Fey Wode. Let me pull up those stars numbers again real quick. All right, so here's Fey Wode. Let's look at Smash Lethal specifically. So Smash Lethal, 2600, Lethal 2000. So 4700 total Smash Lethal damage. That is with these numbers here. Smash Lethal 34 versus 27, so pretty close. Defense 11% versus 26. So, you'd probably give the edge, hey, getting hit less, or they'd be very similar to each other, right? You're getting hit less. Here you're taking less damage. So let's see, hey, what do the actual numbers look like with those star then as a comparison? Here's those stars numbers. Smash Lethal, she had 1600, and Lethal here is 9,000. So what's that? 10,000, like 11,000 damage versus Fey Wode's 4,000 and something. So it's a decent chunk difference. About 7,000 or whatever difference, 6,000 difference. So hey, is that all attributed to just to this? To these raw numbers here because they're pretty close. I mean, I'm surprised it's that big of a difference. So that's where again I think that again all other things are kind of hard to control for, but one of the other big differences we can point to is we got minus to hit over here. So we're not getting hit as much. So if the minus to hit is going to make those defense numbers good enough down here, maybe that turns these defense numbers into more like 50% defense or something like that. Now we're double these, and so we're getting hit less often, and then we're resisting more damage. So I think the minus to hit to me explains this difference better than, the team composition per se. Yeah, those other things are there as well, but I think I can more so guarantee you that the minus to hit is going to have an impact. So anyway, that's a very interesting number that this is like 2.5 times the difference. You know, is it all minus to hit? Probably not, but I think it's probably a decent chunk of it. It's hard to quantify what that would be. And, again, here we're taking a look at these numbers a little bit more consistent out of Nature Affinity again, that we're seeing roughly the same amount per teammate. Doesn't really matter. So, interesting numbers. We've got Electrical Affinity is doing worse, so to speak, on every metric with the exception of the threat rate, at least in the context of the builds that I've tested here. Now, if they were both dark control, dark electric, dark nature, it'd be a little bit easier of a comparison. That'd be a nice little test to be able to do. But I don't have a dark electric to test with, but something to think about. But again, I'm not really looking at a set per set type of thing. I'm ultimately going to try to take all this data together from all these different sources with all these different variations and combinations and look for a bigger picture. So take anything I'm saying right now with a grain of salt. That hey, Nature Affinity is better than Electric Affinity. Yes, but only for these two controllers is what I'll say. Now, is that true for all different controller combos? I don't know. Probably not, but I don't know. Can't tell you. All right, any other thing I want to point out? The last one, again, another huge difference is the liability ratio. This, remember, is the ratio between output damage and input damage. So, how much damage you're doing out divided by how much damage you're doing in. And this is an average of the ratios. So, on average, this controller, Nature Affinity, was putting out 23 times the damage that it was taking in, because the big thing here was this was taking damage in was super low. It was really low for this character. Not so much on this one. So I think that argues towards the minus hit combined with nature is much superior than electric combined with plants, basic controls, which has some minus defense in there, I think, if that. So this guy, this is almost a fourfold difference. That's huge. So, hey, on a safety side of things, I'm going this guy. Overall, he's much more. Fey Wode was much more protective than Ostara was, I think, across the board. The only comparison where I could say, hey, they're doing pretty close to each other, be on the offensive side of things. So if you had to pick, boom, I'm going with this dark nature controller over my electrical affinity controller. All right, that's what I've got right so far. So that is the longest video in this series, and I did not did not start off that way. Well, that was not the intention today, guys. But we did have the two separate videos, and there's a ton of information here, as you can see. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take Fey Wode, and I'm going to compare her side by side to Screaming Tree and see how they stack up. I think my suspicion is that her numbers are going to look much better, but I don't think it's going to be that much better because he did his stuff much faster, like 20 minutes faster. So even though I think her raw numbers are much better, I think when we do the per minute, I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as it may seem right now. So that will be an interesting side by side comparison. And then don't forget, I'm ultimately going to add all that stuff together with the data from the electrical affinity and then the other sets that I'm going to be comparing. And then we'll really see then if there's anything to see or not. Oh, say to see, I don't know. All right, everybody, appreciate it. If you have stuck around after 3.5 hours, maybe there's something wrong with you. I don't know, but either way, I appreciate it. Uh, Lots of data here, lots of information. Hopefully the videos are fun. Hopefully my interpretation of what the hell's going on makes sense. Hopefully nobody got offended if I called you out if you watch this video. Not the intention. It's just educational purposes only. But there you have it, gang. Lots of stuff going on. Lots of fun stuff, interesting things, lots of data to parse here. That's for another video, though. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace out and have yourselves